Check, check, 1, 2. What's up, guys? Chris Dips 1. How's everyone freaking doing? Happy Thursday. Happy Friday freaking Eve. Welcome to Live Vibe 228. I hope you all are having an amazing day. You guys ready to vibe? You guys ready to rock? What in the hell is everyone dipping today, bro? Let me know down in the freaking comments. We got a special live vibe just like last night's live vibe. We are gonna, well, it's not necessarily an interview tonight, but I'm giving the floor to our brother, our golden wrench, Logie Bear, aka Logan. He's gonna do a tell-all, bro. He has a very inspiring story that I believe some fellow live vibers, including myself, we're all gonna learn a lot about Logan tonight. And this is gonna be, well, I know it's a feel-good story because I do know right now Logie is living it up, bro. So we're gonna hear his story. I don't know what exactly he's gonna share. I'm gonna give him the floor and I'm gonna listen. It's not necessarily an interview. I personally I want to hear his story, man. And I do believe people should be heard, man. I know it's going to be inspiring because I know like the cliff notes, but I don't know exactly how he got to today. And we're going to hear that story tonight. So if you guys are vibing and haven't done so yet, please do me a favor and like this freaking video. Let's freaking get this shit going. After this interview or live session with Logie, of course, we're going to give a shot of our Deal or No Deal, followed by Live Vibe After Dark. And we're just going to vibe it out tonight, guys. We're going to vibe. I do not know how long this is going to take. We are just going to flow like wine, baby. We're going to flow with the waves. We're just going to vibe it on, brother. But of course, before we begin, the Live Vibe is sponsored by the best dip company out there, brother. OutlawDip.com. You can use my code VIBE10 to save you 10% off. I am, of course, this is like the 5th day in a row. I am been dipping some freaking wild watermelon pouches today. I vlogged it. You guys are going to see the vlog probably this weekend or maybe even tomorrow if I got time to upload it tomorrow. But I combined these two flavors, bro. And I was shocked. It's a yub, bro. It's freaking yummy, dude. But anyways, yes. Of course, you guys can use my code VIBE10 to save you 10% off. We're ready to rock, bro. We are ready to roll. Let me see. Let me send a little transmission. Bam, baby. I created a brand new, beautiful background for our yub. By the way, our yub. There it is. We are in the Falcon, guys. We are in the Millennium freaking Falcon. This isn't like the other Falcon. Well, this is, you guys know that this is the Falcon here. But I created something special for Logie. And let's bring him in. Oh, shit. He's already in, I think. Guest one. He's in. Let me see. Hold on. Let me lower this volume. Check, 1, 2. Check. Logie, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can read you loud and clear. You guys in chat, give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear Logie. Dude, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Heart's going a little bit with the adrenaline because this isn't my thing. This is your thing. I'm always the guy behind the scenes, like making sure everything works. So, but we'll get it.
Dude, we're with family, bro. This is the Live Vibe family. You don't have to worry, you don't have to stress, but I do know that your story isn't, it's not like anyone's story, bro. I'm sure it's not an easy road, right? Or wasn't an easy road?
Definitely not. Definitely not. If there's such thing as a struggle bus, brother, I've been on it.
Oh, you got Vader. Is Vader behind us, bro?
The force is strong with this one.
I hear just go ahead and mute my notifications.
Bro, that lightsaber sound effect is my notification sound effect as well. We're such freaking nerds, bro.
Nerds of a feather flock together.
And we also fly in the Millennium Falcon. But I'm going to pack a quick lipper, dude. All right, so Logie, brother. Shit, dude. I would say I'm going to let you give us your story, and I might intervene. I'm gonna try to just let you, flow through. But if there's something that strikes my curiosity, and I might ask you a little question, dude. But I mean, what is the story of Logie Bear, bro? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, just a disclaimer, folks. This story does start out pretty dark. So if you are triggered by any stories of abuse or mistreating of children, now would be the time to exit. If you do stick around, you'll notice a theme of why it is that I approach things the way that I do, and why I'm so interested in the things that I'm interested in. I don't know if I want to give them a couple seconds, to or should I just get straight on into it?
No. Dude, I think we're all adults here, and we all shared some heavy shit. Obviously, if they don't want to hear it, they can. Sorry, guys. We'll catch you later. But, bro, this is the lab vibe, bro. Go ahead and shoot. I want to hear you, man.
All right. So I kind of have this broken down into chapters, and I would like to, remind everybody that, this has, childhood memories don't get really remembered as clearly. So there may be some details that I'm a little foggy on, and I'll be like, I think I was this age, what have you. But chapter 1, the childhood. Early on, my very first memory that I can have of this instance happening is I had to have been at least kindergarten or younger. And for some reason, I was in trouble for not waking up on time. I didn't have an alarm clock that I remember. But for some reason, I was in trouble. And, it's almost like a Disney story, Wicked Stepmother. You know what I'm saying? So, I was grabbed by my shirt, thrown into the other side of my room, into my toy box. Obviously back hurts. I was like, oh shit. And I was told to get up into my bed, pretend that I'm waking up, and open my eyes and see that the sun is out and say, it is time to wake up. So I did.
Okay.
Open up my door. She's standing right there. Slams me back again. Do it again. This happened at least 3 or 4 times before I opened up my door, and she wasn't standing there anymore, and I don't know why. Something completely random, but that's when I remember it starting. Fast forward a few years, I'm in at least 3rd or 4th grade, and the beatings continue. They get worse. There's times where, for some reason, my stepmother liked to wear a lot of rings. Rings are not fun. But I remember, going to school, black eyes.
Really?
Bruises all over my arms. And actually, I have to backtrack because this is also around kindergarten age. I remember something happening to the effect of, a little bit of blood splattered on the wall. And I told somebody about it. Being young, I don't know what I'm supposed to say, what I'm not supposed to say. But, coming in with, black eyes and bruises, questions started to be asked. And I was told, you're in T-ball, so tell everybody that you were playing baseball with your sister and you took a baseball to the eye. And they believed it. Now, and also, I want to also kind of backtrack again. I thought I had this all lined up in chronological order, but ADHD brain will get the best of you, and I'm trying to get it out as But I need people to remember that this was a different time. Chris, as I'm sure you know, ADHD wasn't necessarily a thing. ADHD was more so a thing of oh, my child's just misbehaving. And it was a big era of there's nothing wrong with my child, and if there is, beat it out of them. At least that's how it was, for me growing up. But give the usual excuses. Playing baseball, not necessarily walked into a door because who's going to believe that? But, playing baseball, playing outside, anything to do with outside and my sister, that's how I got these bruises.
Right.
So back to, fast forward to, when I said something about there being, a small splatter of blood on the wall. I was pulled in by the school counselor, and all I remember from that conversation was she, having me tell her, what I meant. And so, I told her, the story of the time. I don't remember what exactly happened now because I'm old and, I have fucking the memory of a fucking goldfish. But, come to find out, they also pulled my sister in, to try to get some clarification. That leads to CPS being called. But what ultimately ends up happening is we get home from school before CPS gets there. And so that's when, my stepmom decides you need to tell the CPS person this so that they don't come take you away, because you will be ripped from this house. You'll be put in a foster home. And this is what's going to happen to you in a foster home. You think my beatings are bad? The other kids are going to beat you. The foster parents are going to beat you, and also the other foster kids could be teenagers, and they're going to R-word you. So we scared shitless of the CPS agent that comes in. So we recite our lines, she recites her lines, CPS leaves, nothing happens. Continue more years of this. Anything and everything that I could be in trouble for, I was getting beat. That's just the way.
Well, was she under the influence of anything? Was she someone that drank a lot, or was that just her? She was just an abusive stepmother.
That was just her.
And if you don't mind me asking, where was your dad? Was it just you living with your stepmother? Was this hidden?
So it was not hidden, actually. My father was always at work. Typical, is he's not home because, he's the sole provider of the family.
Right.
But, she would tell him what's going on. I don't, Logan's in trouble again. Logan's in trouble again. And, he'd come home and I'd get beat again. It was double beatings in the day.
Yeah.
It's just how it was. So then fast forward a little bit of time, I had to have been 8 or 9. It gets to the point where, it's almost not necessarily a daily occurrence, but it's quite often. And, it's, what I find out later as an adult was that, my dad also had, some anger issues that he was dealing with from his past. I won't go into anything about that. That's for him to tell and for him to work through if he hasn't already. So what I find out is that my stepmother is constantly on the phone calling him and complaining about me. Constantly calling him and, telling him, all these things. So of course he comes home angry. And at this point, I believe he had a new job to where, he was gone before, I went to school, and he came back when I was asleep for school. So, not only would I get, the beatings from my stepmother, but, after a long day of work and constant updates and constant bitching and constant, all these negative things, being told to him while at work, he has to, enact his punishment for me as well. So, I get woken up to my light flicking on and I'm being yanked out of bed to get beat. And that happens several times. I learned to, my body would wake me up when his car door would slam, and I knew it was coming. And there's, I'm just a kid. What can I do? It's not like I can defend myself. I just sat there and took it. You know what I mean? I thought this was how all families were. it's this is the norm. Like so more of that. But at this point in time, also uh, my mom likes, or my stepmom likes to also, use the threat of, well, do you want to be sent back to your birth mother? Because she's 10 times worse than I was. Did you know that she gave you, like, I don't know if you remember, Chris, or if anybody in here remembers, but convenience stores and gas stations used to have like a little section where it was like covered with like a metal roof, and you drive in, stop, a little attendant would come out. They'd ask you what you want. You'd be like, oh, a pack of cigarettes and some beer and this and that. They'd run in, get it for you, and then you pay them what you owe. Don't know if that was everywhere.
Not
we
in
had
Cali.
one in our hometown. We had one in our hometown. I was just like, oh shit, this is fucking convenient. This is awesome. They do it for you. Awesome. But so the story that she would like to tell was that, did you know that you were given away at one of those? She just gave you up and signed the papers and gave you up at one of those. So I grew up hating my birth mother because, like, what was wrong with me? Why didn't you want to keep me? Why didn't you fight for me?
Yeah.
It's, and like, all these stories that I was told, and like, I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it was an implanted false memory or what, but, apparently at some point in time I had said that I don't want to go back because I have a memory of her not taking care of me and, just, giving me coffee in a bottle. I don't know when I said it, why I said it, but that's, apparently what I said. And, I don't remember that at all. But I remember, either being told I said it or actually saying it. Again, don't know if I was programmed to say it, what have you. But I was, raised with all these stories of, how evil my birth mother was, and like how, like, you think you have it bad here, try going over there and being neglected. You'll go hungry for a week. She won't feed you, she won't take care of you. Like, she gave you up. Like, why would she take care of you if we were to send you back?
Very manipulative, dude. She seems like she fits like every tick box of. I'm sorry. Go on, dude. But it seems like it appears to me that she's just been, obviously, it's probably because she's brainwashing you, bro. I mean, not she is. She was brainwashing you, and you're just a kid, bro. Especially if you don't know exactly what the truth was. Not only was she physically abusive, brother, but it sounds like what's even worse is she was manipulative. She was fucking with your head, man. But go on, dude. Go on.
But we're told all this, and that, like, it was always threats of, do you want to go to a foster home? Do you want to go back to your birth mother? Remember, like, what that I told you, this and this will happen. So, I essentially, it was like living in fear of, like, holy shit, this could happen. I may, this is as good as I'm going to get. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take the beatings over being, not eating for a week, or I'll take it over being inappropriately touched in a foster home. Right. Like, constant fear of that happening. So, I had something else, but I can't remember what it was. But fast forward to around middle school age. Like, I'm not doing too great with my grades. And, it's, you get beat for that. And a lot of people like to ask, what about your sister? Because it seems like you're taking a heavy load, and it wasn't necessarily the same for her. However, she was always like, because I was in trouble so much for even like the most simplest shit and getting beat for it, she's living in fear and trying to be, the good child. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's so many countless times that she's like, screaming from the background, like, mom, stop, dad, stop, quit kicking it. You know what I mean? Because, like, I've been thrown downstairs, I've been thrown across rooms. I've had my head slammed into a wall, causing a crack in the drywall, which now Dad has to repair. So guess
He's
what?
mad.
You gets more mad. You know what I mean? And around this time also, there's a book that my mother was reading, and you would think would shed some fucking light on, what she's doing and the type of person that she is. And it's a pretty famous book, A Child Called It. I'm sure some people have read it. I'm sure some people know about it. It's a story about how, a child was abused. She's reading it while she's doing the same thing. Actually backtracking from, backing up, I remembered what I wanted to say before middle school. But, this is like back to being like 9 or 10 years old. Beatings weren't enough. So guess what? Your new punishment is beatings and exercises. Exercises doesn't sound too bad, right? However, I don't know. I mean, maybe the alpha males out here can tell me fucking different, but I don't know what 10-year-old can do 150 push-ups in one sitting, 200 sit-ups in one sitting, like 75 to 100 squats all in a row. And if you weren't doing them properly, and if I didn't do them fast enough to get the fuck out of, their space of them hearing me count, you get beat and told to start over. And my stepmother
abuse,
like,
bro.
yeah, but my stepmom would always be like, well, we're gonna do this since when I was in the Air Force, we had to do this, so you're gonna clean this, you're gonna exercise like this, and also I'm gonna get beat. She funny part about it is, she always liked to say, when I was in the Air Force, she never graduated boot camp. She quit boot camp. She actually called my grandfather and was begging to quit and begging him to pick her up. And he did. She always liked to, well, when I was in the Air Force, you were never in the Air Force. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Especially now as a Navy veteran, that it doesn't count. That absolutely not.
Yeah. That's stolen valor, bro.
Yeah. So, it also came down to like, okay, cool. I'm in trouble, so I'm grounded for, X amount of time, get beat. Okay, now go weed the garden. We had a pretty sizable garden in our backyard, and, no water. Just get out there and remove all the weeds. And if it's not perfect, guess what? I'd spend so much time like out in the garden, or, getting my ass beat, or, doing chores. She came up with like degrading songs, like, bibbity bobbity boo. What do you get? Connor or Logan as Cinderella. There was always songs. Linkin Park came out with one of the most popular song where he's like every
closer.
Yes. So she'd play it and then be like, this makes me think of you, and like getting super angry. And I could, for a while there, I couldn't listen to Linkin Park for the longest time.
Yeah.
But I'm good with it now. Solid. One of my favorite bands growing up, oddly enough. It's just at that point in time, it dawned on me, if I stay in my room, I won't do anything. I won't be doing anything, saying anything, or I'll be hidden and I won't be near them at all, which means I can't get in trouble, which means I can't be beat. So I'd stay in my room, reading books, building what Lego that I had. Like, I got like a collection of just random bricks that I'd build off of all the time, and that's what I spent most of my time doing. Well, then we fast forward a little bit, and my sister's starting to be at that age where she's making good friends and having friends over and stuff like that. So of course we got to play the perfect family act. And her friends started noticing, why is your brother always in his room? That's weird. He should be outside getting muddy. He should be outside getting dirty. Like, why is your brother so weird? He just stays in his room. That's ill. And her friends had younger siblings that were in my grade. So I'm sure that was discussed and being like, don't hang out with his don't hang out with her brother. That he's really fucking weird. You know what I mean? Which led into I obviously wasn't the school jock. I was real fucking skinny. A little nerdy, and that of course leads into the school bullying. You know what I mean? It's a thing. It's a thing everywhere. It's never gonna not be a thing. Bullying's going to happen. So it's not only did I feel like a outcast in my own home, but I also felt like an outcast in school. You know what I mean? Like, I was one of those kids that like I would talk friendly to every group, but I would hang out with none of them. I was not in any sort of school clique whatsoever. I was my own little island. Right. And it's that's fine and everything, but that really hurts on the development of exchange, like that personal person interaction type deal, because I'm just like, I want to be isolated because like I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if what I say here will get back to my stepmother, which will inevitably end up in me getting beat again. So I was the weird kid, not the typical weird kid that makes cat hissing noises in the hallway, but I was just like, why is he so weird? Why doesn't he talk? Why doesn't he do anything? Like, and middle school age, like, I'm trying to figure out, oh sweet, skating is the thing. That's the cool thing right now. I want to skate. I want to do all this stuff, but if I talk to my stepmother about it, I already know I'm going to be told no, because growing up, my sister was very into art, and like I was, I would see that and be like, maybe subconsciously that, oh, she's drawing art, stepmom likes art, maybe I should start drawing too. But I was told, you can't do that. That's your sister's thing. Okay, well, I like reading, so I'm going to write my own stories. You can't do that. I'm the writer of the family. Started, like I've always had, like, felt like a connection to music because, lyrics, and I'm sure everybody agrees with me on this, like lyrics of certain songs, and like, there's so many songs out there that you just connect with, you know what I mean? And there's so much that I connected with that I took like such a big interest in music. You can't do that. Your dad was the musician of the family, because my dad was actually in a Whitesnake cover band when he was younger. So like, about the age that I started, actually like, getting friends and like hanging out with friends, there was one who was a part of a band called The Lost and the Faithful. And that was when, the Screamo era was really heavy, Devil Wears Prada. That's when I started discovering, Devil Wears Prada, Old, A Day to Remember, A Trio, like all this other things, like, so like I'd sometimes go over to his house, the few times that I did, and he'd teach me a little bit, and that's actually how I was taught how to play keys. And I would essentially go over there in secret, record vocals, and play with them a little bit, and hide it, not necessarily like play shows, but like you know, garage type shit where, you know, some people would show up and be like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, you know, and, you know, at a certain point I got scared and I was just like, you know, stepmom's going to find out about this. I can't do this anymore. You know, it's any new thing that I wanted to try. It was always, you know, you can't do that. You're not good enough for that. You know, all these myriad of reasons. So like, you just get the anxiety of like, well, like, you know, I can't do that because I'm going to be told no, which furthers, which, you know, even more so increased hiding in my room, not gaining any friends because I don't want them to come over and witness anything that, you know, would potentially happen. You know, in a weird way, I felt like I was protecting them from my family.
She manipulated you into that train of thought and that train of thinking. But yeah, it's fucking wild, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, you know, the more you know, secluded I was, the safer I felt in that household. You know, about the only thing that, you know, actually like made her smile and say good job was Lego. You know,
Really?
so like I started having, you know, like maybe I should be an architect. You know, architect is similar to Lego, right? You know, like, and for somehow that's the one that she like was like, oh look, like, you know, this is really cool that you built, even though it'd be like, you know, like some terrible like block building of like a car or some shit that, you know, it didn't really look like any type of car, but I was like, you know, look at this, you know, hey, this makes her smile and I don't get beat for this. Look what I've done.
I'm gonna
You
do
know
more
what I
of
mean?
that.
And you know, it also, you know, some would say that, you know, my interest in Lego came from, you know, Lego is what made her happy, so that made me happy. But in all actuality, that it was actually something that, you know, I enjoyed myself too. So, you know, that was like a connection. You know, maybe that's the fixing connection that, you know, we could have. And you know, the running joke always was, you know, like if, you know, grandparents would take me to Walmart or what have you, or parents would take me to Walmart and say you can pick out a Lego set. You know, I would, you know, oh, okay, well, you know, Logan's going to stand in the aisle for hours. You know, let's go finish our shopping. But, you know, the main reason of why I would, you know, stand there and stare at all the Lego sets was because, you know, I knew, you know, pretty early on we didn't have really too much money growing up. You know, that becomes apparent after, you know, you get told no a lot to things that you want, and, you know, circling things in a catalog for Christmas, you don't get them because they're too expensive. And
Right.
you know, we became understanding of that pretty quick. You know, but I'd stand there and stare at everything, you know, try to figure out what was, you know, a good price, you know, point to get for a Lego build. Even like, you know, Bionicle was kind of cheap at the time. But not only that, but it was more so of, you know, okay, if I get in trouble, which one of these would I be okay with not getting back? Because, you know, they took shit. You know, you're in trouble. You can't have any fun. Understandable. But where did it go after that? I don't know. I'm assuming the garbage can. You know what I mean? That's like, I can't tell you how many things I've lost for that. You know, but you know, the more that I started secluding myself in my room to, you know, stay out of trouble, you know, also kind of the harder it got to punish me with certain things. So, you know, the age old classic of, okay, cool, guess what? You don't have a door for a week.
Oh, fuck, man.
You know,
No.
so it's, you know, it's one of those deals. You know, didn't get any privacy in my own room. You know, whatever I was doing, like make sure, like that's why I would read a lot. You can't get in trouble for reading a book.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, around, you know, fast forward a little bit, you know, yeah, it was always a back and forth. It started becoming a back and forth of who is the good child. You know, there'd be a time where all of a sudden, holy shit, I'm the good child. You know, because my sister would, you know, go through the fucking ringer of, getting something as simple as a B minus. You know what I mean? Like if we got a C on our report card, all hell would break loose. And they'd always, at parent teacher conferences, oh, he's smart, but he just doesn't apply himself. Well, I wonder why. Like,
Yeah.
But so fast forward, like we're in middle school, and this may be a little not necessarily graphic, but a little hard to hear, and this is why I wanted to forewarn people. So upon reading A Child Called It, always getting it thrown in my face. You could be like this kid. You have it so good. You have it way better. You think your life is terrible because you get hit occasionally. Like you could have it like this. Well, we had well water, which was very high in iron if we don't, put salt in the water softener. I don't know how it works. Somebody else can correct me. I don't know how it works, but it was a point in time where a lot of iron in the water. So what happens when you have too much iron? You get the Hershey squirts, right? So what ultimately ended up happening was I had tummy troubles, and I clogged the toilet with too much toilet paper because I wasn't really taught about courtesy flushing. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just like the 50-year wipe is what I call it. And so like, she like, there's no plunger in the upstairs one, but there's a plunger in the downstairs one. And at this point in time was when my stepmom really liked to be on the computer, which was across the fucking room from our second bathroom. So she sees me grabbing, and it happened multiple times because of the water. And at least I think it was because of the water. I could be wrong. But so she sees me and it's like, are you fucking serious again? And so she grabs the plunger out of my hand, drags me upstairs, and I'm scared because I know what's coming. She tries to unclog it herself, and then since she can't do it, that makes her even more angry, and I start getting pelted with the plunger. Still has the fucking water on it from the used toilet water on it, so I'm getting pelted with that, and I don't know why I did it, or if it was just finally not necessarily me snapping, but I shoved her, and I don't know if I said get off me or stop, but the look of fear in this woman's eyes when I shoved her was not necessarily empowering, but like because she had so much fear in her eyes that I finally fought back, scared the hell out of me because I thought I was going to get it 10 times worse. And what actually ends up happening is she calls the cops and tells them that I shoved her and that I hit her with the fucking plunger.
Wow.
And so the cops come out. They of course, they side with my stepmother, and they pull me aside, and they're like, you can't be pushing your mom. You can't be treating your mom this way. And I'm looking at them with, the pleading eyes of please help me, and like, I'm just not necessarily getting ripped into by this cop, but my stepmother knows this cop personally. They're good friends. So like, of course he's going to take her side and believe that I'm the bad kid because, I'm sure, stories around town, I'm the bad kid who's like always in trouble, so they end up leaving, and, I go to school, a little bit, not necessarily a little bit after, as in like hours later, but it's like 1 or 2 days later, and bruises are forming. The bruises have formed, and one of my buddies takes notice at the time, and he's like, hey man, like, are you okay? What's going on? And so like, I broke down, and I told him, the entire event, thinking, this is my friend. I'm safe to tell him this. In comes CPS again. Like, I can't tell you how many times CPS was at our house, but this was the final time that CPS was called. Always siding with the parents because she knows exactly what to say, exactly how to conduct herself, and always puts the threat to my sister: if they take him away, they're taking you away too. So scaring the shit out of her. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that CPS is incoming. I go to school the next day, like everything's normal, and I get pulled out of class. I get pulled into, the middle school's meeting room, and they're like, hey, we're with CPS. We've been called because we heard that this happened to you. And immediately I'm scared because I know it's coming and I know they're not going to do anything. But, this is the first time that I remember that, photos are taken. They asked me to take off my shirt, and if I have the principal, I want to say the principal there and a teacher there and the CPS lady, and she's snapping photos of like all the bruises that I have. I tell her the story, because she wants to hear it from me. And then I get to put my shirt back on, and the quote unquote investigation at that time is coming to a close, and she looks at me and she says, now, I have to go to your house and talk to your stepmother. And immediately I break down and I start screaming, like, please no, God no, do not talk to her. You have no idea how much worse it's going to get for me if you go there. And she's like, well, I have to. So the entire rest of the day, I am anxiety is at full fucking height, fear through the roof. And, I just know it's coming. And the bus pulls up to my house. I get off the bus, and there they are sitting on the porch. And there's my stepmother, sitting all proper, talking, like, can see them talking and shit. And, of course, I have to go up to them because the CPS lady's, like, waving me over. And she's like, okay, what I'm concluding here is that you really need to shape up. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. She's like, so, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and this is and immediately after she's gone from the driveway, it's the Spanish Inquisition. Who did you tell? Why did you tell? Like, you're so fucking lucky that I was able to pull this off, because you have no idea. Like, I've told you how many times what's going to happen to you if they take you away. And it's the amount of like psychological damage that the damage is done. It's like it started becoming like this is never going to end. And that was the last time that I really told anybody at that point in time about everything that had been going on for years. Just kind of, and but I get into high school, and they start becoming less frequent. I don't know if it's because I got bigger, and than she was, and like, maybe I was, maybe I was finally acting the way that I was supposed to. I don't know, but there was always that fear of, well, I got to stay in my room. If I'm in my room, then nothing bad will happen. Started branching out a little bit more as I started like realizing that, like, hey, holy shit, like, I haven't been beaten in months. Oh my God, this is amazing. But there's always that little fear in the back of your mind.
You're fucked already at that point. Your mind, you're already traumatized, dude. You're like, yeah, fuck, man. That's.
So, I start making, my only three close friends, because that's what I felt like I was only allowed to have. I wasn't told that. Nothing that that she ever that my parents ever said or anything like made me feel that way. It's just like this is what I'm comfortable with. But asking to spend the night over at a buddy's house. Panic, fear, anxiety. They're gonna say no. Working on group projects in school, that would require me going over to somebody else's house in the group to complete. I'm not asking. I'm not taking part in it. And please understand that, I won't be allowed to do this, and I would feel like shit because I would contribute, almost nothing to a project, and, we'd get a decent grade, but I never felt like I would earn it. I had earned it because of the fear and the anxiety that I had of, they're going to say no, and I might get beat for even trying to ask, and eventually, things did start to get better, when her and I had this conversation when I was an adult about, everything that had happened. She's like, well, it wasn't all bad. There were good times. We'd stay up late and you'd listen to 80s rock music, and I'd let you stay home from school to play video games and stuff like that. And it's like, that doesn't erase anything. Like, sure, it was good, but also I was doing it out of fear. You know what I mean? Like, in all honesty, the reason why I think it started to get better was because my sister had gone off to college, so there was no competition. There was no wedge to put in there of like, who's going to be the good child. Yeah. I mean, even as adults, my sister would, have arguments and stuff like that, with my parents, and all of a sudden, I'm getting texted like, like everything's fine. I was like, oh, I'd hear the story from my sister of like, hey, this is what's going on with mom right now. Like, this is what we argued about, and, I'm not talking to her currently. And then all of a sudden, guess who's blowing up my phone? You know what I mean? It's absolutely insane. So it still was going on even as adults. You know what I mean? So, high school, I get to, start spending time over at friend's house, secretly recording, certain like music, learning how to play music, because like I truly felt in my heart, like, I connect with music so much that like, maybe this is where I should be going. But I also knew that with having my sister going to art school, I'm old enough to be aware that like my parents can't afford to send 2 kids to college, so I need another plan. Right. And for years, I would, didn't necessarily hate my sister, but I would curse, under my breath, the fact that she got to go to college and I didn't. She went to, I don't know how many years of art school, but like, I was also happy in the fact that, she was pursuing what seemed like her passion at the time. She was always really good at art. And she was even hired by a small little like pet, like those, those small like little shops that would like be like, oh, here's like, like homemade, pet treats, like with like custom, pet friendly icing and stuff on them and stuff like that. She was actually hired. I don't remember how it happened, but like she started, like she had like little mini portraits that she would paint like different breeds of dogs on, and she was discovered by that shop, and they're like, hey, we'd like to sell these in our shop, and also can you take custom orders? And she'd make some money from that, and it was amazing. I was like, holy crap, my sister's being discovered. This is amazing. Yeah. But like, secretly I would curse her out because I'm just like, you got to go to college because you were the golden child. Seemed like you got everything in fucking life, but the mental, she also went through the mental torture and shit. There was a point in time where like, she was actually brought to watch me get beat and then participate in. She'd be like, look at him, fucking look at him. He's the reason why both of you are going to get taken away. Kick him. And like it felt like the biggest, when that was before she obviously went to college and while we were younger, but like me and her were so close knit, and whenever I would get grounded from, playing with action figures, she'd, go up and be like, well, if you're grounding him from playing with action figures, you're technically grounding me too, because that's how we play, you know? So like, and then that would get, I would be allowed to play with action figures again with her, we'd play fucking like house, with her little Barbie house, she'd have Barbies and I would have Dragon Ball Z figures, but like we'd integrate them. But like when she was forced to take part in it, like at the time it felt like the biggest betrayal. You know what I mean? So it started creating that divide. But
it sounds like
and then,
your stepmother forced her. I'm sure she didn't want to do it, right? She
100%.
Because if she didn't do it, she'd be in the receiving end. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And when me and my sister, talked about it, I told her, I was like, I don't blame you for anything. Like, you were doing what you had to do to survive. Like, if you didn't participate in that, 100%, you would have been on the receiving end as well. That's not like that is not your fucking burden to bear.
That's a fucked up position for her to be in as well, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's not like she was always the golden child. It's just that was my line of thinking at the time. You know what I mean? And as I grew up and started working through it, it's just like she didn't exactly have it easy either. She was feeling the pressure, get those perfect grades, be a part of honor society, be a part of this. That way she can, she doesn't get on the receiving end of it. But back to talking about her being in college. She finished. I believe she finished it. She originally wanted to go into fine art. Then she found out what fine art was. It was, more like nothing. It's kind of funny. Nothing, she'd come out with drawings that like I would just be like amazed by, like, holy shit, your skill has like improved drastically. But it was never good enough for the professors. You know what I mean? They'd always find like something to be like, well, like it's hard to tell what you're getting across from here. It's a drawing of the model, like that was the live model that was presented. What do you mean that she's not getting anything across? So then I want to say she finished in illustration. She switched majors to illustration and then was like, kind of had like an interest in illustrating, children's books, which was amazing. But somewhere along the line, she becomes a bank teller, and then she becomes a stay-at-home wife. And for years I cursed her out because I was like, you got to go to fucking how many years of art school and you became bank teller and did nothing with it. I could have gone to college and done something if you hadn't not
pursued
wasted our parents' money. But even then, like, what would I have gone to college for? I didn't know what I was good at. I didn't know what my true fucking interests were.
Your passion.
So it was kind of unfair for me to think that way. And like I working through this years ago, like, that's when I realized, like, that's not the way that shouldn't be the way that I'm thinking. You know what I mean? So at this point in time, amazingly, the idea came from my dad, because we actually started establishing a good relationship. Everything was good for a while, and my dad was like, in my small podunk town in Ohio, it was either you went to college, you joined the military, or you worked at the Whirlpool plant that supplied at least 95% of the jobs that were in my town, building washing machines and appliances. And I knew I didn't want to do that because that would mean that I would remain in the hometown that I was in. And,
right.
And I would be stuck there forever. Didn't have enough money for college, so I knew that wasn't an option. And I don't remember how the conversation came up, but, my dad was like, I was really heavily into, video games at the time, and my favorite game of all was Splinter Cell, little stealth action, type deals. Yeah. So my dad, throws the idea out there. Well, what do you think you want to do after you graduate? You want want to join the Navy and become a SEAL, like the character Sam Fisher in Splinter Cell. And I was like, you know what? That actually sounds really fucking cool. And like, I think I was either 16, 17 at the time, and that's when I made the decision. Holy shit, I get to be, a tactical badass like Sam Fisher in that fucking video game. I get to get the fuck out of my hometown, and I have a reason to leave and be far away from this household, as humanly possible. And so they told the grandparents. I went to the recruiting office and was like, hey, my grandfather took me to the recruiting office, and we decided, hey, this is what I want to do. And they were like, okay, come back when you're 18. You may still be in school, but you can still sign up, and then we'll put you in the delayed entry program, and it'll be a done deal. So of course, that's when everybody's like, oh, we're so proud of you, this and that. My grandfather would tell anybody and everybody who would listen, my grandson's joining the Navy, and he was so proud. And I was just like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. Like, I don't know if I really wanted to do it at the time, because the closer that I got, the more scared that I got. Am I going to survive boot camp? Am I going to part of the punishment threats that I got were, we're going to send you to military school, and I would get shown scenes from Full Metal Jacket, how he gets the shit kicked out of him, and gets a blanket party, and they're like, this is what'll happen to you in military school, or I think there's the scene from Jarhead when he's drawing on the chalkboard, and the drill sergeant takes his head and slams it into the chalkboard. This is what's going to happen to you in military school. Of all things, you would think,
you're thinking the worst.
being told to, exercise as a punishment, being shown that, and threats of military school, that the military would have been the farthest thing that I would ever have wanted to do. But, I was, in my mind, I was like, I'm already used to this. I can take those hits. Is it a healthy way of thinking? Probably not. But, that was my mindset at the time. Like, if I can survive this household, I can survive that type of boot camp. You know what I mean?
With your upbringing, absolutely. And all the shit that your mental and physical abuse, I would think that you took that. I would think that it was a kind of a cakewalk for you once you enlisted. Was it? Or was it not?
But I realized that I missed a part of one of the graphic stories. I don't know if we want to go back to it, and since we're on an uprise, but the whole plunger story, and this is going to gross some people out. During the beating, I had soiled myself because I was having the tummy troubles.
The iron.
And that's when my stepmother took a page from a child called It, and why I brought it up so much. I was forced to put some of it in my mouth, and that's not. Yeah. It's not. It's really fucked up. Growing up, you get the soap in the mouth and all that stuff, but when you're forced to put your own excrement in your mouth, of fear of getting even harder, and being told you need to fucking swallow it. It's not. It's so degrading. It messes with you mentally, and it's just like, oh, I can't believe this. But back to the upswing, right? So time gets closer. I sign all the paperwork. I don't know what I'm signing. A lot of this is like military jargon that I don't understand. My anxiety's through the fucking roof because I'm just like, fuck, I don't know if I can do this. Time comes to go to MEPS. Someone in the comments, please tell me what MEPS stands for, because I don't remember anymore. Go through the process. You go through what's called, the Underwear Olympics. They check your movement, see if you got like scoliosis. You're in your skivvies. You're performing different, not necessarily maneuvers, but the duck walk where you crouch down and walk on, so they can tell like how your spine is, your mobility and all that good stuff. Um, you get you, you get checked. You know what I mean? I'm going through all of it. Went through all of it, and time comes to sit down and pick a job, which I didn't know was a thing because I did absolutely zero research on what it takes to join the Navy because I was too scared to ask to use the computer. you know, um, and he's like, okay, so what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Don't you tell me what to do based on my ASVAB score? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. He was like, okay. He's like, you get to pick what job you want in the Navy. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, okay, what do you like to do? And around this time, like, I knew that I liked to cook. I was cooking a lot. Not necessarily for the family, but I was cooking a lot, and my stepmom seemed to like it because she didn't have to. You know what I mean? If there was something that she could push off on the kids as free labor,
Yeah.
you bet your ass she was going to do it. She and this is the part where it gets funny and where you start seeing dots connect of why I am the way I am and why certain things kind of tick me off a little bit. She would rather sit there on Facebook with her 16 accounts playing Farmville than doing the basic things like packing kids lunch, cooking for the kids. If she could push that off on me and my sister, like 100% she was down with it. That's why she fully supported me cooking, and I actually enjoyed it. It was real fun, taking random things. If anything, it sounds weird. It kind of reminded me of Lego. I was building something, with different pieces, different ingredients, And so, I told him, I was like, I like to cook. And he was like, well, you're too smart for that. I was like, okay. And he was like, you got anything else? And I was like, well, I think being on a submarine would be pretty cool, And, he looks at me and he was like, you're too tall for that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I don't know, because those are the only two things that I had really considered when I was signing up to join the Navy. Those were the two things that I liked. And he was like, do you like computers? And I was like, not really. That's more my dad's thing. I don't want to be associated with that. You know what I mean? Because that's where, the thing comes in. Oh, that's my dad's thing. I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's that old fucking trauma coming back. And he was like, all right, I'll tell you what. And he gets on his computer, he starts typing, some pages start printing out, and he lays out like 3 contracts in front of me. And I was like, well, I kind of had the idea that, if I can, how do I sign up to be a SEAL? Because that's, that was something that was brought up to me and something that sounded pretty cool. And he was like, oh, okay. So he takes those like 3 pieces of paper, sets them off to the side, types more on his computer, prints out a piece of paper. And he was like, here you go. And he's like, okay, so with this contract, he's like, you'll go through boot camp, you'll go through buds. He's like, you'll get a certain amount of rank. And he's like, is this what you're looking for? Is this what you want to do? And I'm reading it, reading all the things. And I was like, man, that'd be really cool to do. But I also knew that buds was really hard. I knew that buds, like, I forget what the statistic was at the time, but it was like, 20 go to buds, only 4 come out, And I had seen like a couple videos, lifting a log up over your shoulder, over your head, and onto the other shoulder, the intense workouts, chain linking arms, and like, going into freezing cold water, all that other stuff. And like, I started getting in my own head about it, and I was like, can I do this? Can I do it? Could I survive that? And I was like, man, I just, I know, I kind of have an inkling of what they go through. And I was like, I'm not sure right now. Like, I'm trying to process if I can handle it. And like after like right after I said it, he reaches over, snatches the piece of paper out of my hand, and he told me, if you're doubting yourself now, you will never make it. And I was like, okay. So he puts that through the shredder, brings back out the other 3 pieces of paper. He was like, here's what I got for you. Here's hospital corpsman, which is a medic. He's like, here's CTN, which is essentially like a for the Navy. And here's IT, information systems technician. And like, so he's like, pick between one of these 3. And so I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the papers. And I was like, I know medical. My stepmom had grown up, or while I was growing up, I was watching the TV show House, and I was like, that is a lot of terms that I don't know if I'm smart enough to know, or to memorize even. And so I was like, I don't think I could do that. And so it was between IT and, Navy hacker. And I'm looking, I was like, well, hacking was more my dad's thing, so I don't think I want that. And I was like, and I'm looking through, the list of civilian jobs after the fact, because they put that within the description of like, hey, here's everything that it relates to in the civilian world. And I was like, this has more options for me if or when I get out. So I guess this is what I'm going to go with. And he was like, okay, cool. He's like, now this also comes with another option. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, how many options are you going to give me? Like I don't do well with options. Like I just don't care. Someone will ask me, like, hey, what do you want on your pizza? I don't care as long as it's not pineapple,
Smart.
And so he was like, now, if you sign on for an extra 2 years, you will get automatic E4. He's like, which is normally a rank that you have to take a test for and pass in order to get. He's like, you'll be automatically promoted like when the time comes. And he's like, we can put you in a program called ATF IT, Advanced Technical Field IT. And he was like, you ever see the military movies of the guys running around in this, like in the desert with antennas coming out of their backs, out of their backpacks, and calling in shit, and all that good stuff. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, we can send you to that specialized school where you won't be doing computer things. You'll be doing that instead. And I was like, sign me up. I'm ready.
Yeah.
That is what I want to do.
He hooked you.
Run around with Marines and call in airstrikes. Make sure comms are set up between this field team and HQ over here. Hands down, I can do that. That is not a problem. I've already at that point, and it's kind of I guess you could say it's kind of depressing to say, but at that point in time, I was like, I was like, if I'm running around with Marines, I have a good chance that I am going to, I'm going to be killed, and I'm okay with death. That is fine with me. Nobody's going to fucking care. And so, that's what I signed up for, and, I go through, so I'm entered into the delayed entry program. I get back to my local recruiting office, because we had to check in, tell them how it went. Here's what I signed up for, all that good noise. And they're like, cool, delayed entry program, awesome. The closest time that we can send you out is November, which meant that I got to finish school, have summer break with my buddies, and then go to boot camp. It was perfect, So I spent most of that summer with playing video games with my buddies all night. I think at that time, oh God, it was Gears of War 3 had come out, and there was a cool camo that I wanted to get, and there was a cheesy way to get it. You didn't have to get kills online; it was just kills in general. So I spent hours getting that fucking camo. You know what I mean? And just having a blast, spending as much time as I could, gaming with my buddies, and staying the night at my buddy's place, because things at this time were great, and so this leads into chapter 2, the Navy, right? So I go to boot camp, I'm scared shitless, anybody, I don't think, anybody, can just walk calmly into fucking boot camp and be like, I'm ready for this. You're getting yelled at as soon as you jump off the bus, questioning what life decision you just made, what leap of faith you just fucking made. Like, it's just like, did I really want to do this? Oh my God. And surprisingly enough, boot camp was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I also thought that I'd come out of boot camp, buff as hell. You know what I mean? Like, I thought I was going to come out of there looking like Superman, but I was like bare minimum, like almost at the cutoff for being underweight. So I got put on double rations to try to fatten me up.
Wow.
My metabolism was high as hell during that time. It just wasn't happening. But me and another guy in boot camp, we were put on double rations, which ultimately actually helps out. We call them divisions. Actually helps out the boot camp division because they get a little bit of extra time to rest from all the fucking bullshit that we were dealing with in boot camp. For chapter 2, when I say beatings, I mean, PTing, push-ups, sit-ups, what have you. It's like, oh my God, it's such a great reprieve from, they have to go through the line again. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? We get to rest before we have to go up and PT
a little
again.
extra time.
But it's boot camp was far easier than I thought it was going to be. But there's points in time where it's like, okay, cool, we're going to fight real fake fighters today. So anxiety through the roof. I don't know how to fight a fighter, even if it's fake. I don't know how to fight a fighter. Like, I've never had to do that in my life. You're expecting me to get in full Raymond get up with oxygen tank and shit and go do this, and we go through it and we do it. And I was just like, holy shit, we took turns, holding the fucking hose at the front, swaying it back and forth and putting out this fire before we're rotated to the back of the hose line. It is so many different experiences, it's like, here's how we're going to tie a fucking mooring line to the bollards. I was like, okay, that seems simple enough, but the anxiety is there of, I don't want to fuck it up, otherwise I'll get either put back farther and delay my progress through boot camp and not graduate on time, and I'll have to graduate with a different division who I don't even know because I've grown pretty close to these guys and I know these guys, or they'll just kick me out and I have to go back home. So like it was always, not going back home was the biggest motivator to succeed in boot camp. And it got to the point where it really teaches you teamwork as well. Like, for instance, making something as simple as making the bed. I couldn't do hospital corners to save my fucking life. Could not grasp it. I tried following the steps, couldn't fucking do it. But my rack mate, he was really good at hospital corners, but he sucked at folding the fucking thin wool gray blanket that we had. We had to fold it a certain way so that you fold back half of it and it makes like a nice diagonal. And these blankets, I tell you, brother, they were all like warped as shit. But of course, that didn't matter. You had to make them perfect. And I was good at tweaking it to where it looked perfect. So I was like, hey man, you do my hospital corners, I'll do your blanket. And he's like, sold. Absolutely sold. And so, we're going through boot camp. We're going through all the trials and things like that. We're just like, holy fuck, like this fucking sucks. We hear from upper classes, hey, there's going to be a pizza party at the end. Do not eat. Do not eat. And we're like, okay. They're like, because it will be on the ground in front of your face if you eat the pizza. We're like, okay, cool. We're hearing this from so many classes. And so, I'm in boot camp from I think November to around January because there's holidays in between, which makes it a little bit longer. And God, where was I going with this? Christmas Day comes. We got to watch not necessarily watch the Super Bowl that year, but you know, it was like a little update thing of Super Bowl. It'd tell you like how far the ball went, and have like a little picture of a football field with like a little line of the football. You
A
know,
little game
loved
cast.
that shit. Yeah. And so like, you know, Christmas Day comes around, and you know, the lights flick on in the middle of the night, and all of us are like, oh fuck, we're gonna get beat again, and it's because it's Christmas. And it was you know, most people would call them drill sergeants, but in the Navy we call them RDCs. So it was one of our RDCs coming in, and he was like, hey, and, you know, he's like, wake up, ladies. He's like, it's Christmas, so we're all gonna. He's like, I have several cans of Monster and McDonald's cheeseburgers. He's like, I'm gonna spend Christmas with the fellas. You know, that became like the running joke. You know, the running joke of, hey, we're gonna do this with the fellas. You know, we're doing this for the fellas. You know what I mean? And you know, a lot of people, like, you know, we had heard so much about the pizza party that were just like, do we take it? Do we take it? Do we take it? So some people didn't. Some people did. I'm a little fat, so of course I partook in it. You know, I had my burger. You know, and he like took a random spare canteen. You're frozen on my end. And
All right,
yeah.
we're good.
Okay, you're back. And so like he would pour, you know, cans of Monster in this canteen, and like he would pour like a little bit of, like, you know, maybe like yay amount of Monster in the canteen, pass it, you know, swig it, and like ultimately it ended up being a good night. We didn't have to, you know, throw it up, you know, hours after eating it from, you know, PT. You know, so that, you know, was great. You know, like, of course, you know, you lock. God, I don't even know how many are in were in the division. I want to say like 70. I could be wrong on that. I don't actually remember how many of us that were in that division, but you know, you lock men in a tight room with bunk beds, you know, testosterone is gonna fucking like flare up.
Yeah.
So, you know, middle of the night, you know, you had beef with somebody, guess what? Mattresses were coming out, and you wrestled. Whoever won is the winner of the argument. You know. You know, I wanted to, like, my rack mate was he he was an alpha. You know, he was a football player. You know, like fucking, you know, real gung ho, and like I was just like, man, I wish I could put on muscle. I wish I could put on muscle. I'm tired of being skinny. So many times I've heard, you know, growing up, why don't you just eat a sandwich? You know, and he was like, okay, cool. After lights out, come work out with me. He's like, I do workouts, you know, in the back of we call them compartments. He's like, back of the compartment, work out with me. And so, like, you know, I got into that fucking routine of, you know, like, okay, lights out, we're going to spend like, you know, maybe 30 minutes like working out with him and go to bed, which is kind of gross. You know, you go to bed sweaty, but, you know, if we were to use the showers, that would, you know, alert somebody that, you know, there's people awake when we're supposed to be sleeping, which means the entire division's going to suffer. And it you know, it got to the point where, you know, I would say I was in the best shape of my life, you know, during that point in time, because, you know, constant, you know, PT workouts, you know, as you would expect in boot camp and stuff, and that, you know, didn't come out looking like Superman, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, metabolism's a bitch until you know, hit around like, you know, 27-ish, and it starts to slow down, and you don't really realize that it has slowed down. But you know, and it I don't want to say that like I finally felt like free, but like, you know, it was so nuts to me that, like, you know, this group of guys from all different walks of life, you know, like I'm the fucking, you know, skinny nerd weird kid who like spent all this time in his room, and my, you know, one of my best friends in that compartment was a jock. Yeah, you know, you never think that would happen because you're going in with the high school mindset. But you know, it was challenging, but also it was good challenging. But you know, this is where, you know, the story gets a little dark again. You know, we're getting ready to do our final, you know, our final physical test, the one that actually counts towards, you know, whether or not you graduate or not. Whether or not you get to proceed or you get like put back into a division that is earlier in the process, which means you have to go through a bunch of shit again. And we had this kind of bigger guy and in our division, and dude was one of the sweetest dudes I had ever met. Big old fucking teddy bear. And he really liked art and drawing and stuff. And I connected with him pretty easily because my sister was into art. So I wanted to help support him in that and be like, dude, like, yes, draw more. Here's my sister's story of how she went to art school and stuff. Really inspired him to like continue drawing. And I was like, hey man, can you draw out a tattoo for me? And he was like, yeah, sure. And being 18 at the fucking time, I was like, can you draw me an anchor with like the fucking the scroll wrapping around it, and have it say Navy in the middle and Carpe Diem, seize the fucking day.
Seize the day.
And he was like, yeah, man. So like he draws it on sheet of note paper, and he hands it to me, and I was like, oh, sweet. So we established a pretty good bond. So fast forward to the final PT test. He was struggling. He's a bigger dude. It's understandable. He's kind of struggling in the PT department. And we're sitting at breakfast the day of, and he's just staring at his plate. He's not eating. And I was like, dude, like, what's going on? I can tell you're in your head about it. Like, what's going on? I was like, you're going to pass. I was like, you keep up with me, and I will get you across that finish line, because he was solid on. We were always told, to pass this fitness test, you need like 60 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, and run your fucking mile in less than 11 minutes. Your mile and a half in less than 11 minutes, and you're good. You will pass. And he knew that he was good on the push-ups. He was good on the sit-ups. It was just the run that he was struggling with because he's a bigger dude. He doesn't move as fast. And I was like, dude, I will run. I was like, if you keep pace with me, and I will run with you the entire way. Unless you feel like you want to go faster. I was like, I paced this out, and I think I have a pretty good idea of like, how to get across that finish line in under 11 minutes. And he was like just staring at his plate, and he looks at me. He's like, honestly, he's like, thank you. He's like, I think I'm going to do my best to keep pace with you, and if I feel like I can go faster, I will. You know what? I think I can. I think I got this. And he looks at me and he's like, I'm going to run until I die. And I was like, good shit, man. We will get. Even if I have to push you across that finish line, you will pass. You will graduate with us. There's no doubt about it. So the hour comes where we need to go to the gym, and we need to perform. We do the push-ups, we do the sit-ups, we take our 2-minute rest, like how the standard was back then. I don't know what it is now. And time comes for the run. We put on our little tracking ankle bracelets, and we're ready to go. And that fucking beeper sounds, and we take off. He's running beside me for a good bit, and then he looks at me, and he just kind of gives me a wink, and he starts booking it. And I was like, I was cheering him on, and then also I was told to shut the fuck up because I was cheering him on. He goes around, we go a couple laps, and then, he starts grabbing at his chest.
Oh.
And he stops. He approaches one of the RDCs who was watching us run around, and he's like, look, man, something's wrong. He's like, I don't know if I need a break or what's going on. He's like, something's wrong. And because he's a bigger guy, they figure that okay, he's just out of shape, and he's he's just a little tired. And they're like, okay, go fucking sit over there, sit up against that pylon. So he goes down and sits, and then the RDC turns his back to him, continuing to watch us run. During this run, we watch him turn red to blue to purple, and we are screaming at this RDC to turn around and look at him because there is something obviously wrong. And we were being told, shut the fuck up, keep running. Shut the fuck up, keep running. Don't fucking worry about what's going on over there. And we're like, dude, he's turning fucking blue. He's turning purple. Like, he needs help. Shut the fuck up, keep running. It wasn't until like an RDC who was in charge of us comes into the room, and she's a corpsman, she's a medic who just got stationed for RDC duty. And she comes in, sees him like, like slumped over, purple, and immediately rushes over and starts performing CPR, doing anything and everything that she has in her toolbox to, get him right. And what's weird is like, I don't remember if, we were just so close to like finishing that, like, we continued to run, or if we stopped. I don't remember. I want to say we were just like, that close to finishing that we all just finished our mile and a half. And then we all just kind of stood around and was like, oh my God, what's happening to him? Holy fuck. And he gets taken away in an ambulance. He dies on arrival. He apparently had some heart condition that he didn't know about. His, doctor back home didn't know about. And, it's just one of those fluke things of like, no one knew that he had this heart condition. And, I have never heard of anyone dying in boot camp before, but, it was really rough. And we actually, they gave us time to mourn. They gave us a week and a half or 2 weeks, somewhere around there, to mourn, his loss. And the only thing that I could keep thinking about was how at that breakfast table, how he looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm going to run until I die. And that it's just on repeat. And like, I broke down, we all broke down. We couldn't fucking believe that, like how, this fucking RDC, had he just fucking turned around while we were screaming at him, he'd still be with us today. And so, I kept, I wrote to his family, because, they're like, hey, who all was close to this guy? Maybe, here's the address, if you can say anything, write to his family. And so I did, because like before my, alpha male fucking rack mate, that guy was actually my rack mate for a little bit before we all like switched around. I don't know what the purpose of that was. Maybe to like, interact with other members of the same division. I don't know. But, that's originally how we started getting close, was he was my rack mate. He was top bunk and I was bottom bunk. And so, I wrote to his family, and they wrote back, they were thankful, like everything that I was able to tell them, and like, how much of a good guy he was. I mean, they already knew that because, they're his family and his girlfriend. And I actually kept in touch with them for, a few years after. But, one of the, it was just something that you just couldn't believe it. How does this happen in boot camp of all places? Like that's not where we're supposed to lose our brothers.
Yeah. And why? I mean, that should have been caught in the initial, screening process. I mean, that maybe he had a heart palpitation or something. It's ridiculous.
No. So we go through our morning time. It still hurts, but at some point in time, we got to continue on. We got to graduate. We got to get out to the fleet. But so my entire class ends up graduating. We have this final the final test called Battle Stations, where they have the story goes that like Disney engineers built this place in RTC Great Lakes. Built a fake ship to like hydraulics and things to like mimic it being an actual ship. You just get run through not every scenario, but like different scenarios that could happen on a ship. Everything's going, okay, cool. You're going to stand this watch and do this. Well, I don't know what this is. You're telling me to look at a dot on the screen? Okay, I can do that. Okay, we're going to switch over to this station. Look through these like huge old style binoculars and report anything that you see. Okay, there's a seagull passing from left to right. Oh, look, there's the same seagull passing, right to left. And, just random shit. And then like it's like, oh, and then it eventually goes down to a scenario where all hell is breaking loose. We're in full battle stations. Get up your full Raymond, get up on, pretend to fight a fire, do this, do that, put up, wooden planks for shoring, because the ship is flooding. You're cold, you're tired, you're sleep deprived, but you have to perform all these tasks. We were kind of robbed of the entire experience because the fire alarm kept on going off for whatever reason. Don't know if it was because of fighting real fake fires or what was going on, but middle of winter, we're standing outside, drenched in fucking fake seawater, standing outside in the snow, like shivering until the fire alarm goes off. And like the fire alarm had gone off at least like 4 or 5 times. So, and like it eventually got to a point where my guess is that it was getting so fucking late / early in the morning that it was just like, okay, well, obviously we're not going to rotate through everything. So congrats, you passed, so like we were kind of robbed. Yeah. So we were kind of robbed of the full experience, but in the same token, like I took it as like, oh, thank you, because I wasn't confident in some of my abilities to do some of this shit. And so, we graduate, go through the whole ceremony of, my recruiter at the time had said, hey, when you complete battle stations, they do the ceremony where you take off your recruit ball cap and you put on a ball cap that says Navy. He's like, and there's music going. There's like, screens that come down and start playing like, like very, very inspirational, like fucking like, short Navy videos of like, people doing Navy things. And he's like, if you don't cry during that, you are not human. Well, guess who didn't cry? This guy. And I was like, I don't see that. But I'm also like, fucking dead tired. So sleep deprived that I was just like, oh my God, thank God it's over. I finally get to go to bed. It's one of those types of deals. We have a little bit of time before, we're told, hey, here, you need to get on the bus at this time because you're going here for your A school or your tech school, however you want to call it. We call it A school. And, you start learning how to be the job that you signed up for. And so like me and another one of my buddies, like we spent like almost the entire night playing like they had this like arcade game of Terminator that had the guns and shit. We spent most of the night playing that. Yeah. Go through the graduation ceremony dressed in your blues, marching forward. My parents came for that, and but luckily, like complete anxiety, because oh fuck, my parents are coming. Oh no, So emotional moment for them. I felt indifferent because I'm like, you canceled on so many other fucking plans. Why are you here? I fully expected them not to come. Because for some reason or another, they've always couldn't make it to certain things. But luckily enough for me, I had a late night watch in the compartment because we would practice, how to stand watches. They tricked us into a writing exercise of like, okay, in your neatest writing, write down the Sailor's Creed, and that's how they determined who was going to get the most watches because, some inspections that we had were the handwriting in the logbook of our watch. So like I wrote as neatly as I could, and of course, I got a lot of watches for that. I was like, shit, got me again, So like, luckily I had a watch, and I was like, hey, look, I can't hang out. Like I have this watch at this time. And they're like, are you fucking serious? Like, you can't spend any time. I was like, I can go to dinner, and then I got to be back because I don't want to be late. So, we have our dinner. I go back, and funnily enough for me, I had enough time to go back to that fucking arcade game with my buddy, and we played that until the time of our watch. So, But what was a little bit stressful was I was just like, fuck, I have this watch, so I'm supposed to stay up all night, serve this watch, of nothing going on except for people passing through in the hallway. And, immediately after my watch is done, I have to get back into my blues, the 13 button pants that seem like a fucking Rubik's Cube, and get on a bus to go to the airport. Like, as soon as it's done, like, I was scared that I was actually going to miss the bus because it was cutting it that fucking close. So, get to the airport and they're just like, cool, here's your plane ticket. You're going to Florida. I was like, oh my God, I love the Navy. I'm so used to the cold winters of Ohio. Like, you're telling me I get to spend fucking however much time in Florida? This is amazing. And it's that, and this is what begins into, learning that, not everything is the same as it is in your hometown. Because, I was like really into metal, really into dubstep. You combine the two into something called metal step, and that was viewed as weird. If I didn't like country or rap, fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And we're on the bus, driving to, we get to Florida, we get on the bus to take us into the into the base. And it's like fucking like 11 o'clock at night or some shit, and somehow the topic of music came up, and I was just like, well, I know it's weird, but like I'm really into metal and dubstep. And like 3 people turn around, they're like, oh, you like dubstep? That's fucking awesome. We do too. And I was like, wait, other people like the same music that I do? What is this? Because I was always deemed as weird, so like I just always like kept it hidden of what my interests were, because I'd never followed the norm of everybody else. And, that's when I started realizing, like, everybody's different. There's things that I like that other people like too, and it's not as weird as it seems.
Right.
So, fast forward a little bit, I spent 10 months in Florida. And, that's, those 10 months are like my college years. Like 4 years of college condensed into 10 months. When I tell you I partied like a fucking rock star, I partied like a rock star. But at the same time, that's when everything started to hit me of everything is so different than my hometown and how I grew up. And that's when I started to deal with my own traumas. And I can tell you, it wasn't in the healthiest way. There was things that I was doing that I should have been kicked out of the Navy for. 100% should have been kicked out for. Things that have altered my health forever. At that point in time, I didn't care, because I was chasing whatever would suppress whatever I was feeling at that time. I was chasing that good feeling, because I was free. I could do all this stuff. I could have energy drinks. I could have fast food. I could hang out with these people here and not be judged because they all like the same thing that I did, and B, not have to worry about anything getting back home.
Yeah.
I would always be asked, because by family back home, hey, why don't you talk to us more? We want to talk to you, know what's going on and stuff. And I was like, nah, sorry, I can't. Navy's taking me. I got this Navy thing to do. I'm super busy. I got this Navy thing to do. I'm super busy. When in reality, I was just taking classes, learning how to be in IT, and then partying my life away. And so those 10 months in Florida, honestly, if I could relive them, I would. To a certain extent, certain choices I wouldn't make again. But those choices are the choices that I made. Things I should have been kicked out for, but was smart enough not to get caught for. So time eventually comes to, okay, like I didn't really take my first school seriously because I was told I was going to be a guy with antenna on my back, or on the ship doing communications. So
Right.
the basic IT school, which if I remember correctly, we were told is a 4-year degree condensed down into 6 months. We have to pass the most basic of IT certs called A plus. It's just the basic of most basic. Yeah. For example, a question on the test is, what does this little red X button at the top of this window mean? Well, it means to close the window. Because that's literally how easy that certification was. If I can pass it, anybody can pass it. And I didn't really take it too seriously because I was like, I know that I have a C school after this, which is the specialized school of like, okay, cool, like you're getting a specific designator, which before they combined radio communications with computer IT shit, I was going to be a radioman. But like either 1 or 2 years prior, they had combined it both to just be just IT. And so I was like, nah, I don't need to know any of that shit. I'm not going to the fucking advanced computer school. I'm going to radio school. Like, what do I need to know this for? And, so like I start my C school and like, for some reason, like it was even better than I thought it was going to be because like there's just something about radio frequencies that I just got. Like it's like, okay, granted, some of it was like, okay, cool, we're going to do this on the computer. You're not actually touching the physical equipment because who would let, apparently, years past, they would actually, have the equipment on site and, costs the Navy a lot of money if, an inexperienced person touched that radio in training and essentially blew it up. You know what I mean? Over-tuned an antenna and, fried it. So, a lot of it was virtual based, but like I just connected with it. I don't know why. I don't know how. It was just easier for me to grasp, radio frequencies, how to operate this piece of gear, how to operate this piece of gear. So, like I'm passing with flying colors, and we were also told that, top 3 of the class actually get to pick where they go, for their very first command. And like, we were getting shown like examples, like you can go and run comms with SEAL Team 10. You can go run comms with this ship. You can go over to, Spain and Italy and, do radio shit there. So we were all like, trying our hardest to, be the top of the class. You know what I mean? And I believe I was 3rd. And, the closer that we got, I think we were like maybe 1 or 2 months away from graduating that school. Our instructor comes in and he's like, hey, so things are changing. Apparently the Navy has decided that you guys as first-term sailors do not deserve to pick where you go. So they're just going to assign you bullshit anyway. Immediately scores dropped. Not to the point of where we were failing, but it's like, what's the point anymore of even, really trying? You lose all motivation to really fucking like, go forth. But in the same token, you're also kind of hurting yourself because you're not paying attention as hard. You're losing out on knowledge that you could have gained. And so, time comes around, we become late on orders. Turns out we are actually supposed to pick, but it's not guaranteed that you'll get your first round pick. I learned later on in my Navy career, you get 3 chances to pick, each a certain amount of time apart. And what they did was they purposely waited until we got to the point of what's called needs of the Navy, where you're automatically assigned. So the day comes, everybody in the class has orders. A good portion are going to one ship in Washington. A couple people are going to overseas. A couple other people are getting ships. And I'm a radio guy, so I'm expecting a ship. Or some shore command that has that deals with radio communications. And lo and behold, what do I get? Naval Branch Health Clinic, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. What in the world am I going to do with shipboard comms and training on a couple pieces of marine green gear, field gear that they take out in the field, what am I going to be doing at a fucking health clinic? And, everybody's like, oh, you're going to Virginia. That NH doesn't stand for New Hampshire. That stands for Naval Hospital. And a couple people in my class that are just like, oh yeah, no, I know that place. That area of Virginia fucking sucks. I'm so sorry, dude. And I was like, there's no way. When have you ever seen a city, not the state? I think I'm going to New Hampshire. They're like, what is the Navy doing in New Hampshire? That doesn't make any sense. And so, like, even when I went to go to the office to get my plane ticket, they had it printed out for Portsmouth, Virginia. And I was like, I don't think that's right. I think you're going to send me to the wrong place. I was like, take a look at my orders. And I was like, why would it say Portsmouth Naval Hospital? It would say it's Portsmouth, New Hampshire, isn't it? And they took a look and they're like, oh yeah, no, you're right. Huh, that's weird. And they printed me out a new ticket. I almost got sent to the wrong place and would have been like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So they're like, okay, well, the closest we can get you is Boston. You're going to have to call your sponsors, that their names and numbers are listed on your orders. You're going to have to call them and tell them they need to drive that 6 hours and pick you up from Boston. Or I don't remember how I say 6 hours, but I actually don't know. Fucking Google Maps will probably tell me, but I'm not going to look it up right now. And so I was like, oh my God, they're going to hate me. They're so going to hate me because I'm forcing them to drive to pick me up. And so, I call them, I let them know the situation, what's going on. They're like, okay, cool. And they're like, are you coming in your blues? And I was like, well, yeah, I was told, like, that's how we have, like, for arrival, we have to be in our blues, don't we? And, they're like, dude, you're coming in on a Saturday. Wear civilian clothes. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? This is amazing. So, I arrive, get to my first duty station. Turns out, I tell them, what schools I went to, and, they're just like, how the fuck did you end up here? And I was like, well, this is just what I was assigned. And they're like, we don't understand. So they did some digging, and turns out, apparently the slot that I was supposed to fill was for the handheld radios that they use to communicate with each other throughout the fucking clinic that are barely used. It's mainly just like a duty radio. So they're like, no, you're not going to be doing that shit. We're going to bring you into our department where we work, and you're going to be doing computer stuff. So here I am, designated as a radio guy doing computer stuff. I was like, what the fuck is this? Are you like, what do you mean?
Got bamboozled.
But, I was like, you know what? I've always been told, it is what you make of it. So sure, I'm a radio guy, but I'm going to be the best damn computer radio guy that's in that fucking office, and it was a short time there. Apparently when you're when you're a first term sailor and you get shore duty first, you can only do a max of 2 years, because the seashore rotation is different for every job in the Navy. But for us specifically, it was like 3 sea, 4 sea and 3 shore, but I could only do 2. And I learned a lot. It wasn't what I was there for, but it was good knowledge to have. And I rocked the shit out of it. I was always told, while you're here, do whatever you can to excel. You may not win a whole lot of awards here because it's a medic-based command. You're in a hospital, so of course corpsmen are always gonna be, the ones getting, the awards and shit. But it's a thankless job. This is just how it is for, our specific, the IT job. And I was like, you know what, that's fair enough. It makes sense to me. What ultimately happened though is that what I wasn't aware of at the time was my LPO, my leading petty officer, the E6 who was in charge, was going to be leaving soon, And so that would only leave me and the E5 that I was with, in the office. And so, he spent as much time as he could. I think he was there for like maybe my first 6 months to a year. I'm kind of fuzzy on like how long he was there, but I learned a lot from him. And then, I learned a lot from him, and then, go over and train with, the quote unquote supervisor, the E5 that was over me. And, he'd be like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You need to do it this way. This way's way easier. He's really fucking dumb. Don't listen to a thing he says. I'm just like, well, okay, well, like a whole bunch of conflicting information. But, and, next comes the brilliant story of, like we had in our little storage area a mass ton of computers that have just been sitting there for years since before, the E5 that was above me had been there. And so he was like, "Oh, did you know that if you take this, this memory stick of RAM, he's like, and if you put it in the solution, you can actually strip the gold from it." And I was like, "That's pretty cool. Science. I like science. That's awesome. That's awesome to know." And like, while my E6 was there, he was like, my E5 was, teaching me like all about like how to strip gold from computer parts and shit. And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Like, whenever you hear like gold plated things, like I always figured, it's just like a gimmick, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't really do anything. And, there's a day we get pulled into my E6's office, and he's like, "Okay, guys, we are missing a fuck ton of RAM, because we had sent some of those computers over to a sister location, a sister command that was also a health clinic, because they ran out of machines. So we sent them some of ours. They're old. They're just been sitting there. Like, hey, yeah, you can have them. Transfer them over." And apparently the call came to his office and was like, "Hey, so we plugged these computers in and they don't work. We open them up and the CPUs and the memory are missing. What the fuck?" And so he was like, "This is what's going on. I need you guys to go in the back or, search around this office, find them. We have to find them, because if we don't, NCIS is going to get involved and we're going to get investigated, and that's not a good thing that we need right now." And I was like, fair enough. So I, like, for at least a week, I was searching and searching. We made it my mission. I'm going to find these missing pieces, that go inside these computers. What I didn't know was that my E5, 5 minutes after having that conversation, walks into my E6's office. He's like, "Hey, it was me. I took them. The CPUs I sold on eBay, and the RAM I was taking and stripping of gold." And so like NCIS comes in anyway. I thought after hearing that, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. We know what happened to him. No investigation needs to be done." Well, NCIS comes in anyway. So like, I'm brand new to the Navy and already I'm being questioned by NCIS. I'm scared shitless. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get fucking kicked out of the Navy, and for something I didn't even fucking do, and I'm gonna get sent back home. And that is the last thing that I want. I don't ever want to go back home. And I get sat down in a little fucking interrogation room, and they're like, "So, what do you know about this?" I was like, "Dude, I've been searching for these things for a fucking week. I had no idea." And I was like, the only thing that, and this is where I slightly fucked myself, because I was like, the only thing that I knew, like he was telling me if you dip it in a solution, like you can strip gold from it. He's like, "Oh, so he was teaching you how to do this." And I was like, "Well, he didn't teach me how to do it specifically like with these pieces of gear, but like, yeah, he told me like how the process of it, if I ever come across, if I ever have like, old pieces of gear that instead of just throwing them away, why not strip them in gold and, sell it off, make some money." And he was like, "Okay. So he was your mentor, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, because he's the only one that could like, mentor me in how to, in my job. It's a command full of medics. What is a medic going to teach an IT on how to be an IT?" And essentially, they were gearing the questions towards, I knew what was going on, and I was helping him do it. But nothing ever came of it. I was cleared, but the fear of getting kicked out because like this guy sold 30 grand worth of government fucking equipment. You know, it's like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me.
It's a learning experience,
But
bro.
after that whole fucking experience, I continued to, he got sent to Navy jail, Leavenworth, I believe. Um, didn't like it was a while before they sent him. But he was no longer allowed in our area, and essentially he was just the day duty standard until like the person who was actually supposed to be on duty and walk the clinic while the cleaning crew was there. He was, they took over. That's all that he was doing. He was, standing that duty, making announcements over the fucking I want to say announcement system, but that's along the intercom, and that was his whole job for the rest of his time there until he was finally sent. Um, and I was just like, Jesus fucking, like, what did I get myself into, But after that whole thing happened, I continued to try to be the best computer guy that I could be, even though I had barely any experience with computers whatsoever. There, and then an opportunity came up to be a SAPR advocate, sexual assault prevention and response, and I was like, if there's people that need help, I'm going to sign up for it. I'm going to sign up to be one of those and help somebody out. And I actually had a case that I had to work on, and ended up saving this woman's life because she was thinking about ending it all. But I was there to talk to her, talk her through it. The hardest part of dealing with that is they tell you that you can't get too emotionally involved, and at some point in time you have to start separating yourself from that person once everything is figured out, and things are not necessarily good, but you have to separate yourself from that person when the job is over. And that was one of the hardest things that I had to do because she's starting to get attached, not in a romantic way, but I was that person to help her through that. And it is just hearing the story of it, and I can't go into detail about it, but it was just, I couldn't believe it, that this happens, you know what I mean? And trying to separate myself, I felt like I was abandoning her in a way, but I had to figure out a way to tell her respectfully, my job is done. There's nothing more that I can help you with, and that sucked. But she, I was able to say it in a way where it finally got that separation, and after that command, I never wanted to do it again. It was, it looks good on the evaluation that you have, gets you some extra points to score above other people and get you that much closer to winning awards and promotions. But thankfully that was the one and only case that I ever had to deal with. I had developed friends with corpsman buddies. I was roommates with one, and during this entire 2 years, I was still enacting in a choice that I made back in Florida that ruined my health forever to deal with my own pain. Between that and among other things, there was a day where my roommate, my door was open, and my roommate saw that I was fucking not necessarily on the floor, but I was tilting back in the little chair that they had in our barracks room, about ready to fall over. He rights it and immediately sticks an IV in my arm because I was that gone. Drained through that fucking bag real fucking quick. And that it was at that point in time where I decided to the next day look at myself in the mirror and ask myself, what the fuck am I doing? This situation, my childhood situation messed me up really bad. This situation this case that I just dealt with, messed me up real bad. And, I'm going down a path that, I really shouldn't be going down. And, the look, seeing myself in the mirror at that point in time was just not,
I didn't know who that was looking back at me in the mirror. And I was like, I need to shape up. If I'm smart enough to make these choices and do these things that could potentially get me kicked out and hide them, to where like I'm not getting caught, then I'm smart enough to get out of it. And from then on, never made that choice ever again. And it was tough. I'm not going to say that it's not. Um, but it's I was better for it, and I knew I was going to be better for it. I was like, I can't be like this if I'm still in the mindset of my next command is going to be better. I'm going to be running around with Marines. I can't do that if I'm in this state. So that's when I cleaned up my act and started getting back in the gym, getting back to doing cardio, because like if I'm going to keep up with Marines, I got to run. So like I started going down that path instead, and made friends with a different corpsman buddy who for some reason the entire command hated. I don't know why. I mean, the man had just come back from Afghanistan, and was having PTSD problems. There was also like Coast Guard attached to this base as well, and like there was one of the patients was a Coast Guard member, and he was trying to get out of like a 2-month underway. We called it a puddle jump, and he just lit up on him. He's like, "Are you fucking serious? You're gonna make up shit just so you get out of a fucking get off of a puddle jump? This is fucking unacceptable. You need to be fucking better." And like just lights this guy up, and like they remove him from patient care. Because like there's like you can't be doing that to patients. We don't think you're fit enough to deal with patients. And so they sent him up to work in the supply department where we started talking, and I was like, dude, like this, like I understand where they're coming from, but I also understand why you did it. You know what I mean? Like I understood where he was coming from. And so like we start hanging out more, and like he needs to leave to go on vacation, needs someone to watch his dogs. Immediately I'm just like, yeah, I want out of my barracks room. I love dogs. Like, you kidding me? Like, of course I'm gonna fucking watch your puppies. And like, he and his wife were so fucking shocked that like I just immediately volunteered to do it, because apparently the place like before he got back from Afghanistan, like they were down in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune, and like apparently like the whole community down there is just like, no, we aren't gonna help you at all. Like, sure, we're neighbors, but no. They're just like, we're not used to, we're not used to someone being helpful. And so like, we got, we all got pretty close at that point. And, he starts realizing things that need to change in the health clinic. Junior sailors weren't being taken care of. There's a bunch of like E6s trying to make E7, and apparently the only way that they could show leadership, like we knew it was E7 season for them to try to make E7, was because like a lot of us junior guys started getting in like written up for random shit that would just normally be a slap on the wrist. Because if you write up your sailors, that shows leadership. That shows you're disciplining your sailors. And I was like, wouldn't it make more sense if showing leadership if your sailors aren't getting in trouble? How does that make any sense? You know what I mean? So like, he was getting hemmed up for like every little fucking thing. And so like, I was there to support him. And then, he comes to me with like a whole bunch of paperwork, and he was just like, hey man, like I'm trying to start this, Navy organization, for, junior sailors. I think it's called, oh man, what was it called? The Junior Enlisted Association or something like that. And like he had me read over, the bylaws and everything like that. And I was, pointed out a couple things that he needed to change. Hey, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Maybe this should go here. Like how about adding this instead? And so like, me personally, I felt like, that wasn't really enough warranting to like, be a co-founder of that, junior enlisted organization. but my name got put down on it, and I was, my end of tour award had that on there. I was a co-founder of it, and I was like, I didn't really do anything. Like I just helped out with, I don't deserve this. It's not something that I deserve. And I should also add in that, my E6 had left, so I was the only military IT there, and according to the clinic, I was kicking ass at it. We had 2 civilian guys that were there that I would constantly go to and be like, hey, like I need you to be patient with me because I'm coming from the radio background. How do I help this person fix their computer? It got to the point where I actually owned my own wing of the hospital, like where if they had computer problems, my phone was ringing, and they're like, hey, do you just want this wing because they're only calling you? And I was like, you know what, I'll take that responsibility. I'll take it. Like, why not? Like, that's going to look really good on my evaluation. And it was like really close to my end of my time there that I finally got another E6, because previous to that, there was no one in charge of me. Like, if I wanted to take some leave, I'd sign it as my own supervisor and then take it up to, the XO and the CO. Like, nobody could fucking touch me. And it was awesome.
You were valued.
And, so, I finally get an E6, and he's writing my transfer eval, and he's like, this is absolutely incredible. And I was actually nominated for a Junior Sailor of the Year award, where so my command was made up of technically 4 different hospitals, one in New York, one in New Hampshire, one in Connecticut, and God, I don't remember where the 4th one was, but so I went up to the level to compete with the winners from each of those 4 clinics, and bombed it. But and I went up against like 2 other E4s and 1 E5, and as soon as I saw the E5 was in the line to go through the dog and pony show, dressing in your dress whites and making proper, military movements and answering questions about naval history and, naval knowledge and such like that, I knew he was going to get it. He's more experienced. He's higher rank. Of course he's going to get it. He has more responsibilities. Why wouldn't he? But, and like, I'm talking with him about it. I was like, dude, obviously you're going to win. He was like, well, here's the thing you need to think about. He's like, you're coming from a corpsman heavy command, a medic heavy command. Why are you the one that's standing here? What does that say about you? You're an IT competing against against the Navy jobs that are meant to be here. You're doing something right if you made it this far. And I was like, well, shit, maybe I actually got a shot at this. And like, he went in and purposely bombed it because he apparently had won so many of those awards that he didn't even want it. He's like, this is, wow. He's like, it's a joke. And so he comes out and we're just like, hey, how'd it go? And he was like, I'm pretty sure I give it to that guy. And he points at me. And I was like, holy shit, I might actually win this thing. So, I go in, do my fucking Navy movements, fucking answer the questions to the best of my knowledge. And I'm like, I actually have a shot at this. He wins. Just like I predicted, he wins.
Oh,
but like, it's it's just the name of the game. It's one big game, that you got to play. And but yeah, my when it came time for my transfer eval, my brand new E6, he's like, this is absolutely incredible. He's like, the block for writing, what you've done, like, from a certain point in time to now is like, maybe like, I don't know, that tall and that wide. He didn't have enough room to put all the things that I had done during that point in time and all the accomplishments that I had made. And he was like, I have never ever ran out of room and had to try to, like, he's like, usually, with these things you have to like add in like fluff words and fluff sentences to like try to fill up as much space as possible. He's like, I've never seen this. And, I was just like, well, when you're the only guy, that tends to happen, and I didn't really respect him a whole lot because it seemed like, he didn't really, try to help me in my career whatsoever. He was always off, trying to help others with theirs. But, later on in life, I thought about it and I was like, he didn't have to. I was already doing it myself. He ran out of room on the eval. And so, transferred from that command, at that point in time, I was, all right, cool. It's time to pick orders again. And so, being raised, I call it being raised by corpsmen who, most of these guys were designated as FMF, Fleet Marine Force, meaning these guys went out with Marines and patched them up when they got fucking hurt. They really instilled in me, we work hard so that we can play hard. And I'm so thankful that, sure, in the beginning, was I like, fuck this, why am I here? This is so dumb. Like, I'm doing shit that I'm not supposed to be doing. Like, I wasn't trained for this. This is ridiculous. But, in the short 2 years that I was there, it really instilled in me that, that whole thing of, we work hard so that we can play hard. And it is the best mindset that I could ever have gotten from that place, because I took that to the rest of my commands. And time comes to pick orders again, and one of the guys that I had been talking to, he was in what was called Brownwater Navy. It's a step below, that operator's like SEAL team level. He was with a squadron called Riveron Squadron, where not necessarily like SWIC. The guys driving the boats, coming in to pick up the SEALs, fucking firing off 50 cals and shit, but a little bit similar, just not as cool. But that's a step in the right direction of where I wanted to go. And those orders were available when it came time for me to pick. So I picked them. I was like, yep, number one, this is where I want to go. And here's, a couple of the bullshit options. First go around, I get an email that says, hey, you've been accepted. You're like, these are your verbals. You've been accepted. You're going to Brownwater Navy. And I was like, that's my foot in the door to go where I originally wanted to be, and I was super excited. I was talking to him about it. He's like, dude, you're going to love it. He's like, you get all the tactical shit, not necessarily operator status, but you know what, like, you're going to fucking love it. I had so much fun there. I would go back. He's like, and if you go there, can you send me this, and this? Because I had to turn my shit in. And he's like, make good friends with, people from supply. Cause they're your hookups for if you want some cool shit. Everybody's giving me advice. He's giving me so much advice. 2 months go by, and I'm just like, man, where are my hard copies at? Like, I don't know what the standard time for hard copy orders are, but it's not official until you get those hard copy orders. And I'm either taking my dress whites or bringing my dress whites back from the cleaners, and I get a phone call. And it's the Navy detailer, the guy who, the one that's assigned to me to, get me orders and such like that. And he tells me over the phone, he's like, hey man, I really hate to do this to you, but that command is being overmanned. You can either pick between a destroyer or a carrier out in Norfolk. That's all you got. And I was like, well, I'm gonna get lost on a carrier. That's 6,000 fucking people on one boat. Like, it's a floating city. I'm going to get lost. So I'll start out smaller. I'll go to the destroyer. He's like, cool. Thanks for playing ball, man. And hangs up. And so, I'm crushed because that was my foot in the doorway to get where I wanted to go, and it's gone. So, I get back to the command and I tell everybody what happened, and they're just like, man, that really sucks. But we've all been to the fleet, so here's what you need to know. Make friends with the cooks, make friends with the supply department. You're already in the IT department, so people are going to want to be your friend very quickly because internet is a big fucking deal. They're like honestly, it's probably better that you chose the destroyer, and because it's smaller, you're going to be a tighter knit group, and community. and it still kind of sucks what that's the outcome of it, but you chose correctly. And I was like, okay, well, so I get fast forward, I get to the ship. That motherfucker ain't small. I mean, it's definitely smaller than a carrier, but it's the medium-sized one. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm gonna get so fucking lost. Like anxiety's through the roof. Like, holy shit. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And so eventually I get on there, and I'm learning my way around the ship. Like, I got lost on 505-foot ship. I can't figure out how to get out of the damn thing when it was time to go home. I had somebody like come up and be like, hey, I've watched you like circle this place like 3 times. Like, where are you trying to go? Obviously you're new. And I was like, I'm trying to get out. And they're like, oh yeah, you just go up that way and it's right there. I was like, of course it is. Of course that's where it would be, right where I'm standing. But we had this like Navy thing where we call it cranking, where you essentially get put to a different department, so that it kind of like and it's either, for us it was either the supply department or the galley, and I just so happened to go to the galley, and and they're just like, hey, like I was the first to go, even though we had I was an E4, had been sent somewhere already, and 2 seaman recruits had just fucking hopped on board around the same time that I did. So I thought one of them would go first, because they're lower rank. Why wouldn't they? And story comes out of like they were banking on me making second, E5. So like they're like, hey, we're gonna send you first. It's also good because you'll get to interact and see a lot of faces from around the ship and interact with them and start forming those friendships. I didn't know that at the time, but of course young me's like, man, this is bullshit. Can't believe I got sent first. They were supposed to get sent first. Like, why? But they wanted to train them up first before they got sent. And around that time is when the engineering department were the only people assigned to the trash room, and they had apparently rose hell about it. Like, why is nobody else being assigned here? Like, sure, we have we're in charge of maintenance of this gear, but it's not fair. It's not fair to us. Like, this is such bullshit. And so they're just like, oh, we got a new guy coming to the galley. Send him down to the trash room. That way we get the engineers off our back. So for the first 6 months, I was dealing with people's garbage.
Oh.
And
it's not what you signed up for, bro.
yeah. And and within my first 3 months of being on the ship, we're going out on deployment. So I had no time to even really learn the area or anything like that, because I was just like, oh shit, okay, and we're gone. But in all honesty, I'm glad it happened that way, because once the galley is done and over with, you get to go out on liberty. I wasn't in a duty section yet. I didn't have to worry about standing watch, like pulling into a port, standing watch, and anything like that. And to be honest with you, my first deployment, it was essentially a booze cruise. Our longest time out at sea was 2 weeks before we were constantly pulling into no, not even necessarily a resupply. It's just the captain that we had at the time, he's like, I like Spain. We're gonna pull back into Spain. Oh, you know what? The crew really likes Greece. I really like Greece. We're gonna pull back into Greece. Constantly in and out of Spain and Greece, more so Greece, to the point where we started making friends with the locals. I knew the streets of Hania, Greece, better than I did, better than Virginia, where I was stationed at. And I can't believe I just now realized that I forgot an important fucking part of, So, you remember how I told you about the guy who ended up passing in boot camp, but
Yep.
He drew out the tattoo first? Well, as soon as I got to Florida,
You got that
I got
tattoo. That's dope, dude. That's freaking
And
dope.
I told them, do not alter it in any way. Make the stencil straight from this piece of notebook paper.
That's the way to do it.
So sorry to be all over the place. I can't believe I forgot that.
You're
But
good, dude. You're
okay,
good.
so yeah, fast forward back. So making friends with locals. Paying €30, which equates to $30 US for multiple tattoos. Um, Let me tell you, get what you pay for. I learned that very quickly. Um, and uh, yeah, got a shitty cover up tattoo. That's and way back when RMs were when radio men were separate from ITs. The story goes, Walt Disney actually designed a character for them, and it was an octopus that was it was a Disney made octopus that was the symbol of the radio men. Why? I don't know, but I was just like, I gotta get something along the lines of that because the way the way some of us thought of us, if you get your job symbol tattooed, you're a fucking nerd. Like that's dumb. Why would you do that? So I was like, I'm gonna get an octopus of some sort, and that's how I ended up with my Coraline shitty octopus that was done for $30. Uh,
It looks like a
and
teddy
I,
bear, bro.
yeah. And at that point also, God, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. It makes me a terrible sailor, but your usual Navy tradition, like way back in the day, was you get a swallow, the bird, for every it was either 3,000 or 5,000 nautical miles. So at that point, we had passed that point. And where is it? There it is. So
Sparrow or
just
swallow?
just
Oh
another
yeah, yeah.
$30 gets you that but so there's a lot of we definitely sailed like way more than that. I just wanted one, otherwise my entire body would have been covered. We did close to 3 deployments in 3 years, which is almost apparently never heard of. But that first deployment, my girlfriend at the time was not happy when I came back because I was blowing money, just pissing money away with all the beer and all the fucking bars we would go to, stuff like that. I saved no money, and I was like, oh shit, until towards the end when I was talking to her about it, and it was just like, oh no, oh I messed up. I was having too much fun with my buddies. This is exactly what what they were talking about. In Spain, there's we went to of all places, we went to a Chinese restaurant in Spain, and they had a challenge. It was a shot of rice vodka, a shot of absinthe, and a shot of rice vodka. Down them as fast as you can, and then talk. When I tell you after those 3 shots, you cannot talk.
Absinthe
Because
is like that.
it
Absinthe is like that.
failed the challenge miserably. You know what I mean? But still got them down. And it's like little experiences like that. And that's why I was so thankful to be cranking for my first amount of time on the ship, because I wouldn't have been able to go out and have as much fun in foreign countries as much as I did for that first deployment. That was the perfect deployment to be, in the area that I was. I mean, especially with the trash room too. Just processing trash. As long as all trash was processed / taken out when we hit port and the trash room looked clean, we were good to go. We didn't have to worry about serving dinner. We didn't have to worry about serving lunch, because we worked in the trash room. You really want people who were handling trash to handle food, because they'd be like, oh, we need more help up here. Grab one of them from the trash room. Nah, dog. That was you really want that? No, I didn't think so. And me and the guy that I was there with, we had it down to a perfect science to where if we were underway, couldn't really do anything. We had everything. We had it down to a science so much that when lunchtime came around, we could go take a nap and then come back when lunch was over. We had it running so smoothly that we'd be down there waiting for trash and playing PS3 that we brought down there. We'd just hang out down there and play PS3 until like trash came in. We're just like, okay, cool, we got a job to do. Let's go ahead and process this shit, and then do all that and cool. What bar are we meeting up at? Later on, with our group of 3. Yeah. Because you have to if you're a certain rank, you can't go out by yourself, and you have to, we call it Cinderella Liberty. You got to be back on the ship by midnight. So usually us 3 buddies go out, fucking have the time of our life, and I have some of it written down here. We hit Spain, Italy, Greece, Israel. I never knew that there was a country named Georgia. Like when they said we were pulling into Georgia, I was like, what do you mean we're pulling in stateside? We're halfway across the world, country of Georgia. Just to name a couple from the first deployment. And, like just going there and seeing how different it was than the United States was like just a real eye opener. Like especially like if I could go back to Greece, I would. And it's so beautiful over there. Like the water, the scenery, like, eating at a fucking restaurant while looking out at the water was just, there's just something about it, and, it really opened up my eyes to like, how, not necessarily how dirty, the U.S. was where we were at, but like, we pull in and it's like, what do you mean the water's not, shit brown at your dock? You know what I mean? We like the only port visit that I was upset with was Norway, because we pulled into Norway, but we couldn't leave. We could leave the ship to smoke and things like that, but we couldn't leave the pier because we were only there for a day. So it was like, no one leaves, and we're just like, oh man, you got one of the guards at the gate, full fucking Viking beard, man bun, all tackled up, and we're just like, oh, that's a modern Viking right there. Like we're in fucking Norway. What did we expect? Like, oh my god, this is so cool. We want to go out in town so fucking bad, but funny story from Spain. None of us knew what paella was, and it looked really. None of us knew what paella was.
I don't know.
It's a big old dish like with seafood flavored rice, like mussels, shrimp, and like it's.
All right.
It
sounds good.
It looks amazing, right? And pictures didn't even really do it justice. So we're thinking like that these things are, single serving size. So each of us orders one. And we got asked, are you short? Well, yeah, we're short. And they're like, that you realize that's going to be like, a couple hours worth of wait time. And we're just like, we got time. Do what you need to do. Not sure why it takes a couple hours, but man, we're having a good time. We're drinking. Not worried about it. When those things came out and they are dishes this fucking big, we're just like, oh, we've made a mistake. But then the inebriated parts of us were also like, all right, whoever gets the most down wins. We're putting euros on the fucking table, because we're just like, all right, cool. I'm in for 5. I'm in for 10. I'm in for 20. I didn't win. There was one of the bigger guys was with us, and of course he won. He was a little fatter than I am. It's the very first deployment was just absolutely magical. It's just getting to see all this different things, and like seeing Facebook posts from back home of like, oh, I have this 13-page paper to write for college while I'm working at this telemarketer job. And, I'm looking at it and, kind of chuckling because I'm getting paid to go get drunk with my buddies in Greece. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, man, and I was like, like a lot of people made fun of me for, choosing to join the Navy, because of, the stereotypes of the Navy. And I was just like, not laughing too hard now, are you?
Yeah.
Are you? And then like
You're
around this
finally
time
winning
also,
at life, right? At that point.
yeah. And around this time also, I like, if people you may know like pops up, and I'm just like, I know that name. There's no way that that's who it is, because I could have swore he had a scholarship to play football at a college. But his profile picture, and he was one of the ones that was giving me shit for joining the Navy. Well, his profile picture is of him in Navy blues that you take at boot camp. I was like, oh, so you gave me so much shit for joining the Navy, and look what you went and did. Crazy how karma works.
It's the way of the universe, bro.
So, time comes around, and they're like, hey, okay, cool, we're going back home. Deployment's coming to a close. And start heading back home, and then like while we're almost home, we get told, oh, by the way, in 6 months we're going out again. We're going on another deployment. And we're like, are you fucking kidding me? We don't, like, what do you mean? I thought we were supposed to be dry docked, get things updated, get the entire like ship work done. What do you mean we're going to go back out in 6 months? That's ridiculous. All of us are pissed. Because 6 months does, like, when you have to turn around and go back out 6 months later, there's a lot of stuff involved with it. You have to get the ship ready to go back out, which includes sea trials and sea inspections that you have to pass. An inspector comes on board, we go out to sea for like a couple weeks, do the maneuvers that they want us to do, and then come back in, and then right before you go out, you spend a month out there, playing war games and shit, just as like the final like assessment. So it's like, what we didn't really get much time back home before we had to go back out again. It's like, God, you gotta be kidding me. And like by this time we had a new CO, which we all were tiptoeing around because we don't know how he's going to run the ship. Like, sure, our fucking first one was a booze cruise, and it was great. However, with it being a booze cruise comes its own share of, troubles, because, people are going to be people. Sailors going to act how sailors going to act. And with our previous captain, what was happening was he would wait to take you to captain's mast until the rank that you were below was what's called
what's captain mast? Whatever you just
so
said.
Captain's mast is what you go to. It's I almost want to call it it's almost like a court. It's almost like not necessarily court martial, but it's like, hey, these are the charges against you. How do you plead? State your case. We'll make a decision on what to do with you. What he would do is he was a very big fan of higher tenuring out people. So, he would bust you down in rank. And then if the rank that you were at exceeds the time limit of like when you're supposed to make rank, you have a time limit to make the next rank. If you don't meet it, you get kicked out. And so what he would do is he would, like, there was a guy that we had at one point in time. He got in trouble for something during like Thanksgiving, and he waited until, I want to say, like, January, because that would have been the marker of when this guy would have been busted down in rank and then kicked out for higher tenure. And I was like, is that even legal? Can he even do that? But it happened. And what's nuts to me is that the thing that he was in trouble for was our ship was drifting, and there was actually when I say English, like, there was a British submarine in front of us, and the ship was drifting, and we were actually going to, give it a little bump, which a little bump from a warship can, cause more than like a little bump from a car. And he emergency dropped anchor so that the ships would stop moving. but because he didn't have prior authorization to do that, he just fast acted, dropped it. He was sent to captain's mast for it, and we couldn't believe it. We're just like, are you fucking like you dropped the emergency like action, no fucking really no time to like really report it. You saved the ship, saved from giving a love tap to them, and you're getting kicked out of the Navy for it. Like what do you mean? But like he's like I don't know if he's like I don't know, maybe they came to their senses for it. It's been how long? And then the date came. Oh, hey, by the way, you're going to captain's mast for this now. Busted you down in rank, higher tenure, you're kicked out.
Fucking egg, dude.
And that's and this is the same captain that would come on board from fucking being out in town and throw up over the side, and we couldn't say anything. We couldn't. You're gonna take the fucking captain to fucking captain's mast? Like, absolutely not. That's a fucking death sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you're gonna act this way, but like when somebody does something good, you're gonna fucking kick them out for it, or you're gonna like wait until like their time limit has hit, and then you're gonna kick them out, or you're gonna kick somebody out for this and this. Like there were so many people kicked out of the Navy because that's what he was doing, and it was rough. Always be on your toes. So when we got this new captain, we're like, oh shit, is he gonna be the same way? We don't know. So we're all on our fucking P's and Q's. Yeah. But turns out that captain, our new captain, wasn't like that. So it was like, okay, cool. Obviously, we're still gonna like try not to, get in trouble. But we now know that this is a thing that he can do. So time comes around, we go on our second deployment, and this one is more like a real deployment. We had extended times out at sea. We didn't pull in as much, but we pulled into Germany, Amsterdam. I think we pulled into Spain and Greece again, a couple times. But going to the new places of Germany. Huh?
You're going to all the cool places, bro.
Yeah. But and going to I was so glad to go to new places rather than just float around in the Mediterranean for a while. What was nuts is we decided to hey, we're just going to go up to the Black Sea and just cruise around a little bit. Well, when we got up there was a Russian destroyer up there, and the Russian destroyer was keeping a close tab on us. Hey, what are we doing
on that?
Yeah, but got to see a news article from around the surrounding area, and it was this American ship on so-called peacekeeping mission up in the Black Sea, and they were keeping tabs on us. And but what was really cool about it though was they figured out that we were just up there just fucking doing rounds. Not that we weren't there to really do anything. Their captain, our captain, comes over the intercom and says, "All right, guys, so you all know about the Russian ship that has been kind of not tailing us a little bit and keeping tabs on us. They have challenged us to a friendly race, and we graciously accepted." And so all of us are like, oh my God, we're gonna race. What do you mean we're gonna race? These are fucking how many fucking amounts of fucking dollars of
taxpayer
warships
money,
and we're gonna race. Hell yeah, we're all on board. So we those of us that could, we went outside the ship to see how it was gonna go. We get all lined up and boom, we're off. We pull so far ahead in this race that we actually stop, put our ship in reverse to let them catch up, and then take off again. I was like, yeah, take that, Russians! Ah! But it was we're just fuck yeah, American made. That's what's up, American muscle right here, baby. But it was also kind of a bittersweet moment because we see the captain of the Russian ship standing outside on the bridge beer stein in hand, big old bushy beard, and like longer hair than what we're allowed to have, just standing out there, just watching, like standing outside watching, like watching how the race goes. And we're like, man, we wish we could have beards and beer. Like, what the hell? But we're so psyched that just like, yeah, American Muscle wins every fucking time.
Of course. When you're young, full of testosterone in the fucking Navy, of course, man. It's a win. It's a dub.
But Germany.
Logan,
amazing.
just to let you know, we're 2 hours and 45 minutes in, so.
Shit.
We got like.
All right. Yeah.
No, go as long as you want. Just know that we're approaching the 3 hour mark.
Okay, gotcha.
You go.
But more like a real deployment. Again, longer time at sea. Germany was amazing. There's I don't know if it's still there, and God, Thor, Denise, I am sorry if I am butchering the name. We pulled into, and I'm just sounding it out how it was spelled, Wilhelmshaven, Germany. And we went to a bar there, and there's some German sailors there. So, my buddy comes up to me. He's like, hey, you want to take this back to Old Navy days? I'm like, okay. So we go over, we start talking to him, and then, we have friendly conversations. We're all getting along. And he's like, hey, guys, you guys want to start a fight? And they were down for it. So, of course, we had the bar fight. Everything ended on good terms, just, playful horsing around. Surprisingly, we didn't get kicked out. But we go back, the next day, and, there's a little bell that says, it says Titanic on it. We're like, hey, how much to ring the bell? And they're like, you have to buy everybody in here a shot. And we're like, great, how much is that going to be? They're like, I don't know, like, 100. We all pull our money together. We got that. We start ringing the hell out of it, And I get a one of our guys had like a small, like little portable Polaroid camera. He snaps a photo of me, and it develops, and it's just like, that's funny. Like you can tell I'm fucking sloshed. And then he puts it, like, they have like this little thing above the center bar area where it has like little like wooden chips and shit, and he like tucks it between like the fucking sail ropes. And we come back the next day, or no, I was on duty that day, and one of my junior sailors comes in and was like, hey, we saw that picture of you up at that bar. And I was like, oh, it's still there? I'm surprised they didn't take it down, because we were kind of rowdy. And she's like, yeah, I brought it up. I was like, hey, did you know that was there? And she's like, the bar owner comes around and goes, huh, I had no idea that was there. I keep.
Oh,
So
that's dope.
I don't know if it's still there.
That's what I was about to ask. I wonder if it's still there.
Yeah. I don't know if it's still there, but if anybody's ever in Wilhelmshaven, Germany, and go to a bar, check above the bar and see if that picture's still there.
And let us know.
So time comes, I transfer off, go to my third command. No real stories there, other than this is when I start seeing that I'm getting close to 10 years. It's time to get shit or get off the pot. There's a bunch of stressors and a bunch of things that I didn't mention because for the sake of time, just kind of trying to speed through this. That it was just a bunch of hard work that wasn't getting recognized. Shitty leadership that oh, you guys just want an award for everything. It's like, no, we actually helped the ship accomplish the mission. Like, why aren't we getting awards for this? And it wears on you. You do so much and don't really get recognized for it, that it's just not, it doesn't seem worth it anymore. And get to my third command, same thing's happening. People are winning awards off of my work. It's just like, how much longer can I keep putting up with really getting into busting my ass day in and day out just for someone else to win an award because they're going to college at the same time. For me personally, you should be getting the award if you're doing your job the best out of anybody. But in the same token, I understood that technically they're showing they're doing more by volunteer hours and going to college at the same time of being stationed somewhere. But if you really look at that's just from the outside looking in. If you were actually there, you would understand that this person over here, that's all they're not doing the job. They're only spending time doing, their college homework and getting a degree and, doing volunteer hours just to look good and winning the award for it. I couldn't tell you at my third command how many times I got asked, like, how did they win this award when we only see you and one other person out and about doing shit?
Politics, bro. It's fucking stupid.
It's just how the game is played.
Yeah.
And that's why I told him I never want to make E6 because I will get fired from that leading petty officer position because I won't play that game. I will give awards to those who deserve it. What really sealed the decision for me was I had a very important job of we didn't own our own network at this place, and so. We needed a middleman to go between, put the tickets in and have the actual owners of the network do shit. And it was a very confusing process. To this day, I still don't fully understand it. And I don't know if I ever would have. I was making phone calls to a guy on a different base because, he was in charge of the program that was doing it. And, a spot came up for a spot that I was weak in on my advancement exams. And I was like, hey, if you want me to stay in and make E6 and continue to do what you call as, good work in the Navy, people, we need more people like you, then this is what I need to do. I need to go work in this area so that I can gain the knowledge and score better on my exam. And I was told, hey, no, we can't afford to send you there because you have this job and, you're too valuable here. I was like, okay, whatever. That's the decision that you make. Cool. 2 weeks later, I get handed a packet that says, hey, you're going to go to security forces for a while, for 3 months. I was like, well, if I was too valuable to send over, to help further my career, but not too important to be sent away to do something that's completely not my job, to check IDs at, incomers of the gate and, inspect vehicles for bombs. Like, how does that make any sense? And that was the day that I decided to get out. Like, really? I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. That and a myriad full of other reasons. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not worth it.
How many people though have so many similar stories just like yours, man? People just
exactly. It was happening everywhere. You know what I mean? Like nobody, like the hard work. Like if you were single, no kids, you were getting taken advantage of. Like, hey, we need somebody for weekend duty. You're single, no kids. You got it. And I'm like, last I checked, this was the military. Like, I understand that people have families, but this is the military. We have to make those sacrifices. You can't play it like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just grew tired of it. And I was like, I'm going to be at 10. That's the perfect time to get out. So went and did that for a while, even asked to stay because I was like, I didn't want to go back to that command. When you fix something that had been broken for 3 years and don't get an award for it, that actually like helps the command do its mission of training the fleet, and you get no award for it, there's a fucking problem. And you hear throughout your Navy career, this isn't how the real Navy is. Well, when am I going to see it? And it's like it's not going to change. I had my division officer tell me like, hey, you want to stay in for a little bit? That way you can get like refreshed on things. We need more people like you in the Navy. And I was like, here's how you keep me in. Auto promote me to E6 and get me where I want to go to the Brown Water Navy, and I'll stay. Couldn't do it. So I was like, okay, I'm getting out.
Wow. Shit. You don't regret getting out, right?
There's days that I wonder what would happen, where would I be if I had stayed in, but in all actuality, I'm thankful that I got out. I had, it's in my genes. I had really bad anger issues. The littlest things would make me fly off the handle because it was such a little thing. And other people made it into mountains out of molehills, essentially. This didn't need to be this big of a problem, why is it this big of a fucking problem? You know,
Yeah.
we're being told to do this. Even our division officer doesn't agree with it, but he was such a fucking yes man that it was just like, yeah, we got to do it. Yeah, I know it sucks, but we got to do it. And I was like, why didn't you fight harder? You know, this doesn't make any sense.
You weren't being appreciated, man, for all the, and recognized for all the hard work, and people are out there fucking playing politics and shit, man. It's stupid.
Man. You know, there was a couple awards that I was nominated for, and I was like, I don't want them. The only reason that you're sending me up is because you have no one else to send, and you can't send up the same person twice. I was like, it's a dog and pony show. That means nothing. How does, you know, me getting dressed in my dress blues or whites and answering questions about Navy heritage decide whether or not if I'm a good sailor or not? It should be taken from the package that you submitted that says why I'm being, you know, nominated. That should be what it's based off of. And if it worked out that way, yeah, I would have won definitely more awards and been more willing to, you know, go try to win them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like, you know, it wasn't worth it to me anymore. And so, you know, like I said, I'm thankful that I got out, because it's just, you know, my stress level has gone down. I'm much more calmer than I used to be. It's just, you know, it was overall a better life choice. And I also found out that, you know, with a certain system that, you know, it's called My Pay. You know, it's how we get our, you know, it's how we get our paychecks. Apparently, occasionally, like every few years, there's a glitch that happens where whenever you set your percentage to you know, set money aside for retirement. In boot camp, I set that to 10%. When at some point in time, like, you know, at some point in time, this glitch happened and reset that percentage down to 1.
What the fuck?
So for an unknown amount of time, maybe it was in an email that I just didn't read. I don't know. But you know, no one ever talked about this glitch before. So my guess is, you know, for 10 years, I was putting 1% in my retirement. So when I got out and had to pull that for extra money to move here, there was, after 10 years of busting my ass, I only had $3,000 in that account to pull from, which of course gets heavily taxed if you pull it out early.
Right.
You know, so I was just like, thank God I didn't stay in for 20 years, because had I not known that,
still though,
I would have stayed in for, I would have stayed in 20 years, and then, you know, as a retirement check, get like, you know, pennies, because I only put $6,000 away without even knowing it.
Jesus, dude.
But, you know, and that's,
God.
You know, and it's going to sound like I'm kissing your ass a little bit, but backtracking, like my second deployment is actually when I discovered your channel, you know, and what really made it affirming that, like, I can like metal, I can like country, I can dip, you know, and like all these different things, because of, you know, seeing your channel. You know, guy's got a day to remember tattoo. He's a city boy that dips and works at that company. You know, it is okay to like all these different things. You know, so you know, like I became more confident, you know, with, you know, who I was as a person after that, and like, you know,
fuck yeah, man. I'm glad you got that out of it. You know what I mean?
And at that point, I think you were doing daily uploads, so, you know, I'd come in from my night shift on the ship, and, you know, there's always a Chris Tips 1 video, and, like, you know, waiting. I'm just like, oh sweet, what's going on today, you know? But, you know, so but that's also what, you know, made me really why I really connected with you at this current point in time, because, you know, right before you started doing this, I had done the exact same thing, like, you know, a couple months before. I started back over from zero. I spent almost every penny I had, because, you know, I took all 3 months of my terminal leave. I didn't sell any of it back, because I needed that break. And I was like, if I sell some of it back, and, you know, I'm currently, you know, doing my job at this command, I'm going to focus on that job and not focus on myself. And, you know, finding a job, because I was applying to job. You can apply to jobs 6 months out from leaving, but nobody wants to touch you because that's too far, you know, That's too far. That's too far along to like, they want people in 2 weeks. And I needed all 3 of those months. No one was replying, and I was like, this is horseshit. Like, not only I didn't want to pull the veteran card, but veteran 10 years of experience. Why is nobody calling? And it turns out because I was shooting myself in the foot. I was applying for junior positions because that's what I thought that I was. Turns out I was actually supposed to be applying for senior positions, but I didn't feel like I had that knowledge base yet. And finally, call comes in. And he's like, "Hey, we'd really love to have you in North Carolina, but because like I started getting worried. I've always wanted to go to Texas, and like that's where I was applying to. Nobody's also calling because they don't want to pay that relocation. So I finally got desperate, started applying, East Coast, and finally a guy calls, and he's like, "Hey, but you have options. You can go to North Carolina for this salary amount. You can come down in Florida with me for this salary amount, or you can go to New Mexico for this salary amount." And I was like, "I'm gonna follow the money." And I was like, "But can I get like a half hour, 45 minutes to think about it?" And he was like, "Call me back as soon as you can because we like you." And
that's a quick turnaround, bro.
And well, main reason I did it because I wanted to check how what was the cost of living out here. Would I be able to survive? Because the other 2 places I would not have been able to survive on that salary amount. It was way too low. Okay. My security clearance alone was worth more than that. And so found out it was really easy to live here. Called him back and said, "Hey, I'll take it." And he was like, "Okay, cool. We'll see you in 2 weeks." And that's how I got here today. A lot of people are asking, okay, well, how'd you get in? I'm sure you would ask, how'd you get, like, when does the barbecue start? Because originally I wanted to do French food. Right. I like sauces. French food is always full of sauces. I'm a little fat, so getting a little bit extra something tasty on the plate, I'm all about it. When I started really researching into barbecue, what really sat home with me was the idea of taking an unwanted cut of meat and turning it into something beautiful, something that everybody enjoys. It's art. Like it struck home with me because, I felt unwanted, and look how I turned out. And so that's why like my heart just fell in love with barbecue, and that's what started my barbecue passion, and why I want to fucking like pursue that area because I've told people I'm sticking with the IT job even though I hate computers and it's somewhat Greek to me, fucking like trying to understand them, but it makes the money that'll fund my dream of the cooking business.
It's a beautiful thing.
And here we are today, and then you get on your live stream, and you start opening up about how you had to start all over, and that's why I am so heavily invested in this stream because look at everything that I've been through, everything that I've gone through, and I could have been on a completely different path. Who knows where I would have ended up if I had followed that other path. Right. And if I could, and coming on here and doing this, if I could help just one person, current viewer or future viewer, then I've succeeded in the mission of what this stream is supposed to be for. And I agree. I agree 100% with this, like with what you're trying to do, and hearing your story of like how you started over, it hits home, and why I'm so like invested on because how many dreams have I had squashed? That's not going to happen for things and people that I care about, and if this stream helps somebody, look at Harrison when he first came in. I consider him our first success story. He was in a low place, and look where we brought him to. Yep. He's running marathons. He's happy. Yep. He he doesn't like join too much anymore, but that's because he doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
What I mean?
That's a good point. So,
And I see that we hit the 3 hour mark, and I'm sorry for taking up a lot of time, but
Bro, you're good, bro.
the main thing that I want to leave the current viewers and future viewers is this. Hearing everything that I've gone through, and what I've accomplished and where I am today, tell me again how you can't pursue your dream. And this is why I hype up anybody who is saying I'm too scared to record myself doing this, or I'm too scared to pursue this. That's all up here. I made it to where I am today by defeating what's up here. And I know that if I can do it, you can as well.
Absolutely. Freaking Logie, dude. I love you, brother. Thank you for opening up and sharing your freaking story, dude. I mean, dude. It's you've been through a lot of shit, bro. And I'm pretty sure you left off a lot of stuff, a lot of dark stuff for the purpose, since we're live and stuff. But dude, I hope you're proud of yourself, brother. You've gone through a lot, dude.
I like who I see in the mirror now. When the term hell and back, like, if anybody understands it, I do. That's why, I'm always in the chat, or sometimes in Discord. They're just like, I really want to do this. Well, do it, because I had, I probably had chances that I didn't take advantage of, and could have been somewhere else, but I'm right here, and there's that. I don't remember if you said it or not, but I'm where I'm supposed to be, I think.
Exactly. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. And the journey ain't over, bro. The journey ain't over.
Still going. Still got the struggles of like when my first year here, the amount of vehicle problems that I had. Replacing all 4 tires, replacing all 4 rotors, replacing all 4 brakes, replacing a windshield. That money that I didn't have. But got to take care of it. It's just me. It's still a grind every day, but it's going to be worth it, because there's already like I told the Discord, financial goals, progress is already being made. Living off of a credit card for 3 months while I was still in the Navy because they didn't pay me my housing allowance because I was in a different school. Coming here, draining my account just to move here, and then messing up on my paperwork, for the new job of, well, I need to put money away for medical expenses. So yeah, I'm going to sign up for, this health savings account, and I want $1,000 to go in it every year when I got here in November. So my first few paychecks were only $500, beans and rice for meals, man. But again, look where I'm at now. I have a $800 fucking Millennium Falcon that I've wanted since I was a child, sitting right across from me on my wall with a light kit to make it look badass. It's the grind is never over. But it was one of the quote. I don't remember the exact quote, but start today. Honestly, start today, because if you don't start today, you won't start.
Yeah. Do or do not. There is no try, bros. Logie, I fucking love you, dude. Thank you so much for opening up your heart, your story, man. I love you, dude.
Love you too, brother.
All right, Logie, have yourself. Well, I'm going to talk to you soon, bro. I'll see you in a bit, Logie.
Yeah. All right, man.
You guys, Sir Logie, you have come so far and overcame so many obstacles, despite everything you've been through. You and Raymond are the David Goggins of the fucking live vibe. Absolutely. Absolutely. Holy shit, I can listen to this man tell stories for the rest of my life. Abso-freaking-lutely, man. You guys... Oh, JD, what's up, guys, in chat? I'm sorry. I love you all in chat, man. Logie, awesome story. Great job. You're not a little fat. The best part of your story is that you always stayed focused on the positives and never gave up. Youngins, take freaking note. Absolutely. Derek says, I love you, Logan Bear, my brother. You guys are awesome, dude. You guys are freaking awesome. Logie, I love you, brother. You said, if you inspire one person that the job's worth, brother, you inspired so many people in such a little time, brother. Such a little amount of time. This was a wonderful tell-all, you know? I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted him to tell the story, man. I want him, and he did. He did. I'm sure you guys might have some questions. You can hit him up personally, or you can tomorrow. Tomorrow, if you guys have any questions, obviously Logie is the freaking golden wrench of the live vibe. He's the main boss. He's the main honcho. He's Mr. Hacker, man. But I'm sure you can ask in chat, and he'll get to you. But you guys, I am not going to do any normal closing. I'm just going to I can't top that, man. Tonight, Logie, I fucking love you, dude. I love you, brother. You guys, have yourself a wonderful night. I hope you guys really listened and took... Bro, this is a fucking success story, and it was beautiful. Alright, guys. I love you all. Thank you for hanging out tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.